Chapter 461. Picking up something good and earning big. This was because the owner of the stall did not know what exactly this black rock was. Even if he wanted to come up with something, he had nothing to build on. After thinking for a long time, he still could not come up with anything. Thus, he could only resort to being mysterious and smiled. "Young hero, you must know this." Xiao Chen shook his head and said, "I really don't." The owner of the store was in a rush to give a price, but when he saw that Xiao Chen was not biting his bait, he felt very depressed. He really did not know how else to introduce this. Xiao Chen's lips curled up and said, "If you are not going to tell me, then never mind. I shall be leaving first." The owner of the stall quickly got up and stopped Xiao Chen. He said anxiously, "Young hero, don't leave yet. If you truly do not know, then I will explain it to you." Xiao Chen said curiously, "So, what exactly is this?" The owner of the stall thought hard and fast. After a while, he said, "This black rock is a rank 10 spirit beast's egg. If you hug it against your belly when you sleep every day, after 49 days, the life within the egg will sense your life force. In another 49 days, the shell will slowly undergo a metamorphosis. Then, in another 49 days, the young of a rank 10 spirit beast will hatch." The owner of the stall said all of this one breath. After he finished, he took a deep breath. He praised himself in his heart. Even he did not expect himself to be able to come up with all that. Xiao Chen laughed in his heart. He really admired this person. Being able to boast to this level was truly a difficult thing to achieve. Xiao Chen's expression remained unchanged. He only said doubtfully, "A rank 10 spirit beast egg. Is that really true?" The owner of the stall said very seriously, "It is absolutely true. All you have to do is to give me 100,000 inferior grade spirit stones and it is yours." Xiao Chen shook his head and said, "I don't believe that. Why don't you sleep with it for 49 days first? When the shell changes, I will come and buy it." The owner of the stall originally thought that Xiao Chen had believed him. He had not expected him to say something like that. This was just a rock, how could it change after sleeping with it? The owner of the stall smiled embarrassedly and said, "This thing, it would only be effective if you sleep with it yourself. Otherwise, the spirit beast would not acknowledge you as its master." Xiao Chen directly said, "It's too inconvenient. I will only offer 500,000 inferior grade spirit stones. I have already purchased so much from you and spent a lot. In my opinion, even 10,000 is too much. I shall take my leave first." "Don't go, 10,000 is fine. This black rock is yours." The owner of the stall immediately shoved the raw astral iron into Xiao Chen's arms, not letting him leave. He then smiled and said, "Well now, young hero, you have purchased it already. It's time to pay up." Xiao Chen looked at the raw astral iron in his arms. He felt both like crying and laughing. Originally, he had just been afraid of the owner of the stall noticing that he was interested in this and giving him a nonsensical price. Unexpectedly, the owner of the stall has now shoved it into his arms and only wanted 10,000 inferior grade spirit stones. Compared to the value of astral iron, it was no different from giving it to him for free. The owner of the stall even thought that he had gained a great advantage and was afraid that Xiao Chen would regret and change his mind. Xiao Chen did not say anything else and directly tossed 10,000 inferior grade spirit stones to the other party. He then kept the raw astral iron and immediately turned to leave. The owner of the store watched Xiao Chen leave. A huge smile filled his face as he said to himself, "If more of these rich heirs came every day, it would not be hard for me to become rich." Xiao Chen smiled faintly and continued looking around the market. As he searched for a fist technique, he looked around to see if there was any chance to pick up something good. Time slowly went by. Xiao Chen had already seen tens of fist techniques. However, they were all medial grade earth-ranked fist techniques. There were very few superior grade fist techniques. The ones that Xiao Chen found did not match his attributes or situation. It was hard to find a pure lightning attributed fist technique. As for peak superior grade earth-ranked fist techniques, Xiao Chen had not even seen one. After looking around for a long time, he could not help but feel disappointed. It looked like it would be very difficult for him to find a suitable superior grade fist technique within 10 days. He put down another secret manual he was looking through and said to the owner of the stall, "Sorry, this manual is not suitable for me." The owner of the stall was an old man over 60. He glanced at Xiao Chen and said, "Little friend, unexpectedly, you have pretty high expectations. If you really have enough spirit stones, I can recommend you to someone. If you go there, you will definitely be able to find the secret manual you need." Xiao Chen seemed interested and said, "Tell me more." The old man merely smiled and did not say anything. Xiao Chen understood what he meant and he immediately took out 200 medial grade spirit stones and handed them over. "Senior, please give me a hand here." The old man weighed the bag with spirit stones and smiled in satisfaction. "After you leave this street, the third street on the left is the street that is dedicated to selling secret manuals. Go to stall 100 and take a look. The items there are very expensive, but they will definitely have what you need." Xiao Chen thanked the old man and took his leave. After 10 minutes, he arrived at the street that the old man had mentioned. Indeed, it was as the old man had said. Although the street was very small, there were very few people, and it was very clean. The stalls there were all filled with secret manuals. Xiao Chen slowly counted in his heart. Soon, he arrived at stall 100. The person manning the stall was a fierce-looking middle-aged man over 30. He glanced at Xiao Chen and smiled. This was clearly a genuine smile, but it still made one's hairs stand on their ends. "Came to buy secret manuals?" the middle-aged man asked. Xiao Chen nodded. "I only want superior grade earth-ranked fist techniques and above. Ideally, they should be lighting attributed." The middle-aged man did not say anything else. He rummaged around his stall and handed over 4 secret manuals. Xiao Chen received them and flipped through them. The first secret manual did not have any attribute requirements. It contained a total of 10 moves and was very tyrannical. Each move was more vicious than the last. Its main focus was using aura to suppress others. When fighting a cultivator that was weaker, only one punch would be necessary to deal with him. If fighting against a stronger opponent, unless one had very exquisite moves or was able to attack a lot faster, one could only clash head-on and try to suppress him in terms of aura. However, its weak point was that its expenditure was huge. A regular superior grade martial king would only be able to execute one set of this fist technique before running out of essence. The other problem was that the moves did not flow very well one after the other. It was very blunt and straightforward. This fist technique was a superior grade earth-ranked fist technique. Xiao Chen felt that it was not bad. If there were no other choices, he would take this. This tyrannical fist technique suited his needs. Xiao Chen had plenty of essence, much more than a regular martial king. He could also switch between essence and vital chi to support the expenditure. Hence, the first weakness could be neglected. As for the second weakness, Xiao Chen did not care too much about it. For him, fist techniques were only a supplement. He still had exquisite saber techniques that flowed very well. The second manual was a wind-attributed fist technique. It focused on achieving the fastest attacking speed possible and exquisite attack combos. Xiao Chen shook his head and gave up on it. He already had saber techniques that were exquisite and very fast. There was no need for his fist technique to focus on speed as well. Xiao Chen continued to look at the third manual. It was a lightning attributed superior grade earth-ranked fist technique, the Thunder Rock Fist. An expert of the senior generation observed the high-ranked lightning attributed spirit beast, the Thunder Rock, and created this fist techniques based on his insights. It contained the speed of the Thunder Rock and its berserk nature. It also contained the technique used by the Thunder Rocks when they hunted for prey and the insights that he gained throughout his life. Xiao Chen thought to himself, indeed, that old man did not cheat me. I managed to find 2 suitable fist techniques in an instant. I should continue to look and see if there are any better ones. If there are no better ones, then I shall pick one from these 2. The 4th secret manual was called Dragon Claw Fist. It was a martial technique that combined both fist techniques and claw techniques. It switched between the fist and claw, catching the opponent off guard. Dragon Claw. Xiao Chen quite liked these words, as he felt it might be compatible with the Azure Dragon Chi. Xiao Chen continued reading. The Dragon Claw Fist was a peak superior grade earth-ranked fist technique. His expression could not help but change. Although superior grade earth-ranked and peak superior grade earth-ranked only differed by 1 word, the difference in might was huge. The might of a peak superior grade fist technique was already infinitely close to a heaven-ranked fist technique. Furthermore, without reaching a certain cultivation realm, one would not be able to use it. Using a heaven-ranked martial technique could result in the body exploding. Xiao Chen himself had experienced that before. So, a peak earth-ranked martial technique was the most powerful martial technique possible under the martial monarch realm. Xiao Chen felt doubtful, so he asked, is this Dragon Claw Fist really a peak superior grade earth-ranked fist technique? The secret manual that the middle-aged man handed over only had the name and an introduction of the martial technique. It did not contain the incantations and the circulation method of essence. So, Xiao Chen was not able to make a judgment on that. The middle-aged man smiled and said, my reputation is not just built in 1 or 2 days. Since it writes that it is a peak superior grade earth-ranked martial technique, it definitely is a peak superior grade earth-ranked martial technique. However, this martial technique is rather special. It is likely that it would be useless to you even if you bought it. How so? The owner of the stall explained, this fist technique can only be used with the purest vital chi. Furthermore, it has very high requirements on the physical body. If the physical body is not strong enough, even a cultivator who cultivates vital chi would suffer from serious internal injuries if he executed it forcefully. Before they could kill others, they would end up killing themselves. I can tell that you have a surging essence. Naturally, it is impossible for you to be a physical body cultivator. You probably are not able to make your vital chi circulate as you please. Hence, it would be useless to you even if you bought it. Xiao Chen rejoiced in his heart. This Dragon Claw Fist seemed like it had been specially made for him. He casually asked, how much? The middle-aged man felt suspicious and asked, you want to buy it? Xiao Chen did not beat about the bush. He asked directly, as long as the price is not too ridiculous, I will buy it. The middle-aged man said in a deep voice, don't worry, all my goods are worth its value. As for the martial technique you want, although it is a peak superior grade earth-ranked fist technique, it is too peculiar. Thus, I will not offer you a ridiculous price. 30,000 medial grade spirit stones will do. Xiao Chen nodded and prepared to pay the 30,000 medial grade spirit stones. He knew that the other party had quoted a reasonable price. A peak superior grade earth-ranked martial technique would go for 50,000 medial grade spirit stones at an auction if there were no unexpected surprises. Xiao Chen tried asking, can I pay using inferior grade spirit stones? The middle-aged man shook his head and said, no. All martial techniques that exceed inferior grade earth-ranked require medial grade spirit stones for payment. Xiao Chen did not hesitate and took out the stones, he had merely asked out of curiosity. He had already guessed that the other party would not agree. After Xiao Chen handed over the spirit stones, the middle-aged man counted them. Then he took out the true secret manual from his spatial ring and handed it to Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen flipped through the secret manual and verified that it was real before placing it into his universe ring. Before leaving, Xiao Chen looked at the many secret manuals in the middle-aged man's stall. He asked out of curiosity, "Where did you get all these secret manuals from? If the information is a secret, I am willing to pay spirit stones for it." So many secret manuals should have been the result of a land full of fortuitous encounters. Fortuitous encounters all had a great attraction to cultivators, and Xiao Chen was no exception. The middle-aged man chuckled. He said, "No, it is not a secret. After you leave this place, this secret manual might even find its way back to my hands." Xiao Chen's heart turned cold when he heard this. He now knew how the other party had obtained all these secret manuals. They had been all obtained by killing others. Given that he could rob so many secret manuals, this person was at least a half-step martial monarch. "Ha ha, don't worry. I never make a move against my customers." The middle-aged man laughed loudly when he saw Xiao Chen's expression. "This fellow is crazy." Xiao Chen did not remain any longer. He turned around and left the place. Since he had obtained the secret manual that he wanted, there was no more need for him to continue looking around. So, he left the streets and prepared to fly up. However, just at that moment, a cultivator wearing a black cloak, with his face hidden in the shadows, descended down in front of him. Then, he immediately headed to the north. Xiao Chen felt that this person was very familiar, so he quickly extended out his spiritual sense. Upon probing him, Xiao Chen's expression could not help but change. "It's Chu Chaoyun. What is he doing here? He must be here to see if he can find anything good. After all, even I came here, so it is not strange that he came as well." Xiao Chen withdrew his spiritual sense and no longer cared about him. However, he suddenly realized that something was strange. After Chu Chaoyun had landed, he simply kept heading north, not even bothering to look at the stalls around him. How strange. Xiao Chen's pupils constricted. He decided to quietly follow Chu Chaoyun. He withdrew his aura and walked behind him, maintaining a distance of 2,000 meters. Soon, Chu Chaoyun left the boundaries of the market. Xiao Chen found this even stranger. What in the world is this fellow planning to do here? The outside of the market was just a patch of desolate land. There were only some wild weeds growing there. A cold wind blew noisily. All these made the place look very bleak. Chu Chaoyun did not stop moving for a single moment. He was very clear of his destination. He kept moving forward until he arrived before a gravestone. There was a deep pool of water beside the gravestone. The pool was filled with ice and looked very strange. Chu Chaoyun removed the black cloak he was wearing. Unexpectedly, he was wearing golden long robes from the Tianwu dynasty beneath the cloak. Chu Chaoyun's usually carefree face revealed a faint melancholy. He knelt down and started to clear the weeds around the gravestone with his hands. The gravestone was already very broken down. The stones had already split open in the places where the words were carved. After looking for a long time, he could finally make out what was written on it. He read out softly, "Grave of Chu Zhaoyang." Chu Zhaoyang, Chu Zhaoyang. Xiao Chen repeated this name twice in his heart. Then, his expression changed greatly. The great Tianwu emperor who had been praised for 10,000 years, the one who had established the Tianwu dynasty and ruled the continent, wasn't his real name Chu Zhaoyang. That is impossible. This is absolutely impossible. Xiao Chen was extremely astonished. The great Tianwu emperor, Chu Zhaoyang, was an outstanding talent. He had been unrivaled and his deeds were spoken about even after 10,000 years. Even to that day, he was still a legend who could not be surpassed in the Tianwu continent. The title of number one after the ancient era belonged to him and him alone. However, his gravestone was so simple and ordinary. It looked like it was about to collapse and was covered in weeds. The gravestone of a city lord of a small city would be several times more luxurious than this. As the great Tianwu emperor, how can his gravestone be so simple? Doubts appeared in Xiao Chen's heart. He could not understand what was going on or how could a heavenly emperor's grave be so simple. TL note. I can't recall whether the term Heavenly Emperor appeared before, but this should be another title for the martial emperors, just like how martial sages are also called sages. What Xiao Chen could not figure out was why was Chu Chaoyun here. Furthermore, this gravestone did not seem too difficult to find. Thus, it was strange that no one had any designs on this Heavenly Emperor grave. After all, no matter how simple it was still a Heavenly Emperor's grave. Just the corpse of a Heavenly Emperor was worth cities. The value of the grave was immeasurable. All sorts of doubts filled Xiao Chen's mind, making him feel confused. He carefully thought back to his past memories. Suddenly, Xiao Chen recalled that when he had first met Chu Chaoyun, there was a Heavenly Emperor grave there as well. That was the last emperor of the Tianwu dynasty. That emperor was far from being comparable to Chu Zhaoyang. As the biggest winner of that fortuitous encounter, not only did Chu Chaoyun obtain the body of a martial emperor, he had even absorbed a tenth of the heavenly flame and obtained the life-extinguishing blood-reversing swordplay. Seeing that Chu Chaoyun appeared here in such a strange manner, perhaps finding the grave that time was not a coincidence. Maybe everything was flowing according to his plan. Thinking deeper into this, the map that the Yu clan had obtained in the past might have been a result of his plans. If all this was true, then Chu Chaoyun's shrewdness was simply terrifying. Bang! 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 Suddenly, the pool that was filled with ice started to shatter. And lingering aura rushed up to the sky from the cracks. The aura resembled a long straight line. It soon pierced the barrier of the underground market and entered the lake. This startled Xiao Chen. He realized that the aura that he had sensed when he first came to the hidden dragon lake had come from here. Boom! The ice completely shattered and a snow-white flood dragon emerged from the pool. It was more than 200 meters long. Rows of white scales lined its entire body, and it was surrounded by clouds. It also emitted an ancient dragon's might. The entire underground market felt a heavy pressure. Suspicious gazes filled the whole place. Why did the old ancestor come out of the blue? Is someone having designs on that Heavenly Emperor's grave? They are too daring. Don't they know how to spell the word death? TL note. Don't they know how to spell the word death? This means, do they not fear death? It's said in a rather sarcastic fashion. However, no one dared to check out what was happening. They all simply remained where they were and continued with whatever they had been doing. No matter how curious they were, they could not muster up the courage to find out what was going on. Unexpectedly, this hidden dragon lake actually has a dragon hidden within it. Xiao Chen thought in horror. This was a rank 10 frost flood dragon, a being that was comparable to a peak martial sage. Gauging from the clouds surrounding its body, it was clearly on the verge of morphing into a true dragon. It was unknown for how long this flood dragon had lived for. Even if a martial emperor came, he would not be able to do anything to it. This flood dragon was a peak existence that stood above them all. No wonder no one dared to touch the simple Heavenly Emperor's grave that was placed there. Xiao Chen, who was 2,000 meters away, withdrew all his aura. He even carefully laid prone on the ground, not even daring to extend out his spiritual sense. Such a strong frost flood dragon would be able to detect Xiao Chen with a single thought, and no matter how strong Xiao Chen's spiritual sense was, it would not be at a level that could compare to a flood dragon's. Before the gravestone, Chu Chaoyun waved to the frost flood dragon in the air. He said, "Ao Yang, it has been a long time." Indeed, it has been a long time. The last time you came seems to be 4 years ago. The flood dragon spoke in human language with an extremely hoarse voice. Chu Chaoyun smiled faintly and did not say anything else. He took out a stack of yellow paper and other items for honoring someone's death and placed them one by one before the gravestone. A golden light flashed in Chu Chaoyun's eyes and all the items was set ablaze. Chu Chaoyun looked distracted as he watched the yellow paper burn. The melancholy on his face became even more intense. Chu Chaoyun touched the mottled gravestone with his right hand and muttered in a voice that only he could hear, "You might have had peerless talent and unrivaled cultivation. You might have become matchless in the world. However, in the end, you still became a patch of sandy soil and a broken gravestone. Even though a long time has passed, and your stories are being passed down even until now, your empire no longer exists. Your descendants do not even have the rights to exist properly." Xiao Chen could not hear what Chu Chaoyun was saying. However, when he saw the burning items, a thought suddenly arose in his heart. Could this Chu Chaoyun be a remnant of the Tianwu dynasty's royal court? Shu. Just at that moment, an extremely cold gaze landed on Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen's chest tightened. He knew that when his emotions fluctuated earlier, the frost flood dragon sensed it. Zoom. Without hesitating, Xiao Chen pushed off the ground with his hands. His body immediately shot up into the air. The patterns on the blood-flamed shoe suddenly lit up. Xiao Chen's speed immediately reached Mach 4 as he rushed into the sky. CA. 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 The moment Xiao Chen left, the place where he had laid earlier became covered in a layer of frost that extended 10 meters deep into the ground. All the soil in that area turned into ice and shattered. Countless ice fragments shot into the surroundings. A cold chi spread out amidst the frosty howling wind, and a huge deep pit appeared on the ground. All of this had happened in the blink of an eye. Xiao Chen did not even know how the frost flood dragon made his move, nor did he feel it. As he flew towards the sky, he felt extremely anxious. All Xiao Chen thought of was how to get out of this place as soon as possible. He did not even think of retaliating. The frost flood dragon looked at Xiao Chen, who was flying in the air. Its eyes moved slightly as he prepared to send out more dragon chi to intercept Xiao Chen. However, it suddenly discovered something else. It stopped, opened its jaws, and by simply raising one of its claws it sent out an extremely sharp frost chi. Bang! Xiao Chen felt the frost chi explode behind him. The horrifying energy caused the lightning-attributed essence in his body to crumble without being able to resist. Pussy! Xiao Chen vomited out blood. The huge force pushed him forward continuously. Soon, he reached the barrier and arrived at the lake. The huge force did not diminish and continued to push Xiao Chen upward. After a while, Xiao Chen got blasted out of the hidden dragon lake together with a pillar of water. Xiao Chen heaved a sigh of relief. He checked on his injuries, but was surprised to find that there were none. The frost chi that had surged within Xiao Chen's body and had caused him unimaginable pain did not cause him any harm. Instead, it even forced out some of the impurities in his essence. That was to say, not only had Xiao Chen not suffered any losses, he had even benefited. The pillar of water fell back down, sending ripples through the lake surface. After a long while, the surface of the lake calmed down. Xiao Chen stared at the lake at a loss of what to make of this situation. He could not understand why that rank 10 frost flood dragon helped him. The hoarse voice of the frost flood dragon sounded out beside the heavenly emperor's gravestone once again. Chu Chaoyun, don't let anyone tail you here again, not even if they are the inheritors of the Azure Emperor. Chu Chaoyun said somewhat helplessly, I really did not know that he followed me. Furthermore, who knows when I will be back here again. The frost flood dragon's voice resounded again, I don't care what you want to do. Don't you dare have any designs on the items within the heavenly emperor's grave. After the frost flood dragon spoke, its huge body moved and re-entered the deep pool. Chu Chaoyun clenched his fists tightly, and his eyes became resolute. He looked at the simple heavenly emperor's grave and muttered, those who are dead, but I still have that basic amount of respect for you. Xiao Chen cautiously returned to his courtyard. Then, he sat down cross-legged below the small tree and closed his eyes. He started to carefully sense the frost chi that the frost flood dragon had given him. He found that there were still some remnants in his body that had not been used. It would be too wasteful if he did not use it properly. Kai. As Xiao Chen was circulating his essence, the frost chi that remained in his flesh, meridians, and his internal organs was all being quickly absorbed. Was clearly supposed to be bone-chilling. However, it made Xiao Chen feel a certain warmth. He fell deep in thought. Aside from the benefits of this frost chi, he thought of some other things too. This frost chi could hurt some but help others. Xiao Chen wondered if this principle applied to the other attributes as well. The wind had a berserk side to it but also had a cool and gentle aspect that could make one feel warmth. The heat of fire can kill, but it can also aid in cooking. It was ultimately something necessary. So, if Xiao Chen managed to apply this principle to his state, his comprehension of state would increase by another level. However, this principle was still too profound for Xiao Chen. Thus, he collected his thoughts and stopped thinking about it temporarily. Instead, he focused on absorbing the frost chi. After about 7 minutes, Xiao Chen opened eyes. He felt a certain warmth and incomparable numbness in his body. All of the turbid chi gathered at his abdomen. Xiao Chen flicked his finger and a drop of black blood shot out. The instant the black blood left his body, Xiao Chen felt his entire body relax. What powerful frost chi! Unexpectedly, it managed to heal all the hidden damage that I have not noticed before, Xiao Chen said in astonishment as he stretched himself. He still could not understand why that rank 10 frost flood dragon helped him. Dong. At that moment, someone knocked on the door, interrupting Xiao Chen's thoughts. Xiao Chen opened the door and saw an ordinary person in gray robes with 3 golden lines embroidered on the collar. He was standing outside holding a letter. Might I ask if this young hero has the surname Xiao? The person said in a respectful tone as he cupped his hands. Xiao Chen nodded to confirm. The other party smiled and said, "In that case, I have found the right person. This letter is for you. I will take my leave then." The other party held out the envelope, but Xiao Chen did not take it immediately. The person delivering the letter had a very ordinary attitude. He did not show the kind of fear and respect one would show when meeting a high-ranked cultivator. Furthermore, using letters to poison the receiver was something commonly seen. It was better to be cautious. Xiao Chen gently waved his hands and a strand of essence shot out. A hole immediately appeared in the envelope and revealed the letter inside. The letter unfolded itself and floated in the air. After Xiao Chen read it, he sent out a strand of purple flames and burnt it to ashes. Strange. Why is the beast taming Abad's Zuo Mo gathering everyone? Zuo Mo was Pei Xiaoxuan's first senior brother. He was the strongest third-generation disciple in the beast-taming abode. He was very strong and managed to rank in the top 20 in the previous 5-nation youth competition. He was one of the few that could withstand the pressure and enter the top 20 despite not being from the Great Jin Nation. It would not be exaggerated to say that he was the #1 expert of the Great Tang Nation. The contents of the letter were very simple. It simply invited Xiao Chen to attend a gathering that was taking place 5 days later. It seemed like Zuo Mo intended to gather all the people participating in the second round in order to get to know each other. Xiao Chen said softly, "That is fine as well. If everyone comes, it would give me the opportunity to check out the situation beforehand." Xiao Chen kept this matter in mind. Then, he took out the peak superior grade earth-ranked fist technique, the Dragon Claw Fist, and read it carefully. The Dragon Claw Fist was a fist technique that perfectly merged fist techniques and claw techniques. The sudden change between claw and fist caused one's opponents to be caught off guard. According to the introduction of the secret manual, once it was practiced to great perfection, there was no longer a difference between fist or claw. When one attacked, it would contain both the might of a fist and the sharpness of a claw. The fist technique had a total of 7 moves. The first 3 moves were the foundation and did not have any name. They merely served to allow the cultivator to switch between fist and claw freely. Starting from the 4th move, it became very overbearing. Each move was stronger than the one before it, and every move was a killing move. Furthermore, each move had 2 methods of execution, using a fist or a claw. Depending on what was used, they became completely new moves. Thus, knowing these 4 moves was equivalent to knowing 8 moves. The 4 moves were Berserk Dragon, Burning the Heavens, Breaking the Top, and Seizing the Heart. After reading the secret manual, Xiao Chen started to carefully comprehend it with his eyes closed. After a long time, he slowly opened his eyes. A light flashed in them. He put away the secret manual and followed the method listed in it to circulate his vital qi. Boom. Boom. The vital qi circulated around Xiao Chen's chest, and when it moved to his right arm, it was struck by pain. It felt like his flesh was about to explode. Together with the pain, Xiao Chen felt an incredibly strong energy pouring into his arm. What a tyrannical energy. No wonder that the middle-aged person said that a person whose physical body is weak absolutely cannot practice this fist technique. Xiao Chen knew that he was a little over his head. He had actually used all his vital qi the first time he tried the technique. Thus, he quickly reduced the amount of vital qi by half. The painful sensation immediately vanished and his vital qi flowed very smoothly. Soon, it flowed into his palm. Pa! Xiao Chen punched and his force exploded out in the air. The explosion was followed by a strong gust of wind that made countless leaves fly into the air. Its might did not diminish as Xiao Chen continued to follow the methods listed in the Dragon Claw Fist, turning his fist into a claw. The energy that had been scattered into the air earlier was all absorbed back. Then, it merged together with Xiao Chen's remaining vital qi. When he slashed out with his claw, a strong wind blew in the air, leaving 5 deep marks on the ground. Only after flying for a long time, did the energy finally scatter. Just using half of my vital qi is already able to produce such might. I wonder how powerful it would be when using all of my vital qi, Xiao Chen said, revealing a joyful smile. Xiao Chen had not used the Azure Dragon Qi in his arm in this move yet. If he merged his Dragon Qi and Vital Qi together, it was likely that the power unleashed would be ridiculous. This peak superior grade Earth-ranked fist technique is worthy of its rank. It was worth me spending so many spirit stones on it. Xiao Chen laughed happily. 2 days later, Xiao Chen had already achieved the basic level in the first 3 moves of the Dragon Claw Fist, the switching between fist and claw. He had just reached small perfection, but was still far from being able to switch as he pleased. However, that was something that came with time. It was not a problem of Xiao Chen's comprehension, it was just a matter of time. Fist. Xiao Chen shouted loudly in the courtyard. All his vital qi circulated once in his abdomen before pouring into his right arm. After 2 days of practicing, Xiao Chen's physical body could now handle this vital qi. Furthermore, he did not feel pain anymore. When the vital qi flowed through the meridians in Xiao Chen's arm, the Azure Dragon tattoo started to move slowly. Dragon qi slowly infused into the vital qi. The energy flowing through Xiao Chen's arm increased by at least 20%. When he clenched his fist, he could feel it surging. He punched. Boom. A visible azure energy exploded out. A strong wind blew in the courtyard, ripping out a few small trees. As the energy surged out, the small trees were immediately shattered into countless pieces. Claw. Xiao Chen shouted again. He turned his fist into a claw. The surrounding azure energy gathered back and merged with the remaining energy in his arm. Pu Si. 5 azure streams of energy tore through the air, and 5 cuts clearly appeared in each of the leaves flying around him. Fist. Xiao Chen's lower body sank down and the instant he withdrew the claw, he pushed it forward. Suddenly, his aura changed, turned into a fist, and pounced forth. Xiao Chen switched between the fist and claw several times before he came to a stop. After thinking for a while, he said softly, "The fist looks powerful but it is too scattered. I have to find a way to focus it." Following that, Xiao Chen started to practice the fist. He tried to make the force of the fist explode out at one point and not let it disperse to other places. Time slowly went by. After another 2 days, Xiao Chen managed to gain a firm grasp of the 3 foundational moves on the Dragon Claw fist. As for the problem of the fist force dispersing, Xiao Chen found a pretty good solution to it. After all, it was not a particularly profound technique. He could already do it in the past. Now, by only making a minor change to the Dragon Claw fist, he made it more suitable for himself. It is time to practice the true moves of the Dragon Claw fist. The Berserk Dragon can be split into the Berserk Dragon Fist and Berserk Dragon Claw. It is clearly one move, yet there are 2 ways to execute it. I have to think this over carefully, Xiao Chen said with a resolute gaze as he took a deep breath. In the west of Desolate City stood a large courtyard. The entire place had already been reserved by the beast-taming abodes Zuo Mo. The tables and chairs in the courtyard were arranged in an orderly fashion. The 200-odd people from the various nations who qualified for the second round were currently gathering there. The people from the Great Tang Nation sat together and those from the Great Chu Nation sat together as well. After all, the people they were the most familiar with were the ones from the same country. It was hard to avoid conflicts between geniuses. Thus, when the geniuses from the same nation gathered, it was like allying with each other. There were close to 300 outstanding talents from various places here. The group of the Great Qin Nation was very small. Aside from Duan Muqing, Hua Yunfei, Mucheng Shui, and Ji Changkong, there were also some other outstanding talents from the imperial capital. The whole group only consisted of slightly more than 10 people. Compared to the other nations, which had tens of people, the difference was obvious. Even adding Xiao Chen and Chu Chaoyun, who had not arrived yet, their number did not exceed 20. When the surrounding outstanding talents from the other nations glanced towards Hua Yunfei and the others, contempt flashed in their eyes. Occasionally, they discussed about them in soft whispers. This made the people from the Great Qin Nation feel very embarrassed. In reality, the spiritual energy in the Great Qin Nation was very sparse. They had been at the bottom of the 5 great nations for a very long time already. In the past 5-nation youth competition, they did not even have anyone who entered the top 100. Unfortunately, the 5-nation youth competition had a rule that the disciples from the royal clan could not participate. Otherwise, with Ying Yu's strength, she would have certainly been able to climb to the top 20. The royal clans of the various nations were in a group of their own. According to the rumors, they could communicate directly with the upper realm. They all had their own paradise for cultivating. Thus, just like with the 5-nation youth competition, the royal clans of the various nations would not receive an invitation for the ancient desolate tower. Liu Yang, we have not met for 3 years already. Given this rare meeting, I wonder if your sword can still defeat me. A cultivator called Zhou Wei from the Great Sha Nation said to a cultivator of the Great Tang Nation as he released his aura. In the end, behind all these facades, the gathering was a chance for everyone to check out their opponents before the arena battles. There were countless people who were familiar with each other. They wanted to know how much the other party had improved by. Then, they could make an estimation of how big their chances were of obtaining one of the 20 spots. Many people showed up. Half of it was due to the respect for Zuo Mo and the other half was because of the 20 spots. The Great Tang Nation's Liu Yang got up and said, I was thinking of challenging you as well. I could defeat you in the past and I will be able to defeat you in the future. Shoo. When the two spoke, the whispers immediately stopped. Everyone looked over. Everyone here were potential opponents in the arena battles. If they could understand their opponent's strengths before them, they would be able to save a lot of effort. Dang. Dang. Sword chi flew everywhere inside in the courtyard. When the two of them fought with each other, they kept using all sorts of sword techniques. The two were about equally matched, neither could triumph over the other. Lu Yong felt somewhat surprised as he said, "Did you expect that you would comprehend sword intent in the past 1 year? What more, you managed to comprehend it to 30%, that is not a simple feat." Zhou Wei executed his sword intent to its peak. He felt somewhat pleased as he said, 1 year is sufficient for many things to change. If that is all the ability you have, then if you meet me in the arena battle, you would better forfeit. Boom. The sword in Zhou Wei's hand trembled and an even stronger sword intent poured out. The sword chi that came out became sharper as well. Dang. 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 As Zhou Wei swung his sword, Lu Yong was forced to retreat by several steps. The scales started to tip in Zhou Wei's favor. This is the sword intent that I have comprehended to 50%. The cultivators who were watching whispered, 50% comprehended sword intent is a peak small perfection sword intent. Once one crosses this hurdle, it would become a great perfection sword intent. For a regular swordsman to comprehend sword intent to 50% at this age, they had to be extremely strong. No wonder this Zhou Wei dared to challenge Lu Yong. This trump card of his explained everything. Lu Yong's expression changed slightly, but it reverted back to normal very quickly. He said indifferently, 50% comprehended sword intent. I have already achieved that half a year ago, but you have probably only just achieved this recently. Boom. Lu Yong's sword intent surged as well in his aura rosé. His handling of sword intent was even better than Zhou Wei's. Furthermore, Lu Yong's sword intent was stronger. He immediately gained the advantage, and Zhou Wei could only bitterly defend. After 100 moves, Lu Yong found a weak point. He thrusted his sword towards his opponent's face. This attack was very fierce and gleamed with a cold light. Zhou Wei was startled. He quickly withdrew his sword to defend. Who knew that Lu Yong was only feinting? The instant Zhou Wei withdrew his sword, Lu Yong swung his sword downward. He struck Zhou Wei on the wrist and wounded him. Zhou Wei lost grip of his sword. Lu Yong immediately took advantage of that moment to step forward and place his sword against Zhou Wei's neck. Brother Zhou, it seems that you have practiced for nothing. It will be best if you don't get me as your opponent in the arena battles. Lu Yong laughed loudly and sheathed his sword. Everything that Zhou Wei had said to him earlier, he had returned it all. Zhou Wei returned to his seat dispirited. His friends beside him immediately consoled him, "Don't be sad. You have comprehended your sword intent to 50%, and your state of wind has reached peak small perfection already. There is still hope for you to obtain one of the 20 spots." Zhou Wei smiled bitterly and said, "Never mind, this only allowed me to see where I stand more clearly. Originally, I believed that, although I am not amongst the few people at the peak like Ding Fengqiu, Zhang Zimo, Chu Mu, and the others, I am still strong enough to be part of the top 20. I have never expected such a result. Although I have improved, so did the others." Following that, a few other people started to exchange moves. The three geniuses of the Myriad Fiend Palace, Zhang Zimo, Chu Mu, and Mu Xinya, also fought each other. The battle between Pei Xiaoxuan and Xia Xian, as well as the battle between Ding Fengqiu and his old enemy, Zuo Mo, attracted the most attention. These people were the ones who the crowd believed to be the strongest. After watching the fights, their belief was further consolidated. When Lu Yong saw Ding Fengqiu and Zuo Mo's fight, even he shook his head slightly and sighed, "I am still not as strong as him. If I get him as my opponent, I will immediately surrender and save my strength for the next fight." The group from the Great Qin nation all had unsightly expressions. They originally thought that they were not much weaker than the people from the other great nations. They thought that they at least stood a chance. After seeing the few fights in front of them, they shook their heads and sighed, thinking to themselves that they were truly frogs in a well. TL note. Frog in a well. This means having a narrow view of the world, being someone who is not aware that there are better things outside of what they know. Bang. A cultivator from the Great Qin Nation's imperial capital got kicked flying by a swordsman from the Great Tang Nation. Blood trickled out from his mouth as he showed a pained expression. The swordsman shook his head and said, "The cultivators of the Great Qin Nation are still very weak. Sorry, I should not have challenged you." Although these words sounded very nice, in the ears of Hua Yunfei and the others, they were the worst form of humiliation. "Don't go, I, Hua Yunfei, challenge you." Hua Yunfei's expression was sullen as he stood up. He held a scarlet sword and slowly walked to that swordsman. That swordsman glanced at Hua Yunfei and said solemnly, "You are stronger than him, I accept your challenge." Boom. The two started fighting. Hua Yunfei knew that his opponent was hard to deal with. Thus, he executed the Bloody Death sword technique to its peak. The air filled with red flashes amidst a churning scarlet sea, and a baleful aura surged. The swordsman's expression did not change though. He stepped back over and over again, blocking Hua Yunfei's continuous stream of attacks. When the swordsman ran out of space to step back, he suddenly stopped. He shook his head and said, "What a strong martial technique. Unfortunately, you have not even comprehended sword intent. What a waste of martial technique. It is time for you to lose." A sword intent surged up and the swordsman's aura suddenly rose. His sword techniques became very overwhelming and he managed to deflect all of Hua Yunfei's attacks in one move. Then, he left a faint wound on the latter's face. After all that, the swordsman quickly withdrew his sword and moved back. If he had not shown mercy, Hua Yunfei would have died immediately. Ji Changkong immediately got up and said to that person, "I am Ji Changkong. Are you willing to guide me with your expert moves?" Before the swordsman could reply, his friend beside him, a bladesman, got up and smiled, "You have fought 2 rounds continuously already. Should I deal with this for you?" "Sure, it's all yours then, Shi Yang." The swordsman nodded to indicate that he was fine with this arrangement. Then he returned to his seat and closed his eyes. He did not care much for the 2 victories that he had obtained. In his eyes, defeating someone from the Great Qin Nation was nothing worth being proud over. Ji Changkong softly said, "Very well, fight with all your strength. In that way, when you lose, you will be fully convinced in your loss." Shi Yang laughed and said, "What a joke, say that after you win." Shoo. Ji Changkong took the initiative to attack. He used the astral swordplay and a starry sky appeared around him. However, that bladesman did not care about his opponent's mysterious phenomenon at all. He shouted a war cry and hacked forward with all his strength. Shi Yang's cultivation was higher than Ji Changkong's. Using his tyrannical saber technique was sufficient to suppress his opponent. Bang! 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 After exchanging a few moves, Ji Changkong's arm became numb. He also felt a faint pain in his chest. He knew that his essence was inferior to his opponent's. So, he did not hide his true strength and merged his 20% comprehended sword intent with his sword technique to gain some footing. The bladesman smiled and said, "Interesting. However, a 20% comprehended sword intent is nothing here. I will still defeat you." Suddenly, a strong wind blew from his saber. This bladesman finally used his full strength as well. Dang! 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 Ji Changkong blocked 3 strikes in a row, but after that he could no longer block. The sword in his hand was knocked away and sent flying towards the outside of the courtyard. Originally, Liu Chengxie thought that he would be able to do better, as he had a holy weapon. However, when he saw Ji Changkong's sword being knocked away, his expression changed. Liu Chengxie simply lowered his head and pretended he had not seen anything. He completely lost all intention of challenging him. Accept your fate. The spiritual energy in the Great Qin Nation is very sparse and there is very little competition there. Even with the same amount of talent and resources, you will all be weaker than the geniuses of the other great nations. You are only destined to play a supporting role in his budding era of geniuses, Shi Yang said expressionlessly. Ji Changkong's face filled with dissatisfaction. However, he had to admit that what his opponent said was correct. Wang. Wang. Just at this moment, a drawn-out, melodious hum of a sword resounded outside the courtyard. Everyone quickly looked over. They only saw a bladesman wearing white robes standing outside and grasping the tip of a sword with 2 fingers. The force behind the sword was very strong, but that bladesman only used 2 fingers and casually caught it. The sword could not advance forward at all, it could only vibrate violently in the air. Shi Yang's expression changed slightly. He had used his full strength during his final 3 strikes as well as his strongest killing move. He was very clear on how strong they were. The sword that he had knocked flying had at least half the might of his full power attack. It was not strange if someone dodged it. After all, it had already slowed down. However, this person casually caught it with 2 fingers. This was somewhat unbelievable. That day happened to be the day Zuo Mo had set, 5 days after Xiao Chen had received the letter. He had been completely engrossed in practicing the Dragon Claw Fist's 4th move, the Berserk Dragon. Originally, Xiao Chen intended to practice it once and make his way over. However, who knew that he would suddenly gain some insights and sink deep within it? By the time Xiao Chen came to his wits, it was already noon. So, he quickly rushed over. The moment Xiao Chen stepped into the courtyard, he saw a sword flying at him. At first, he thought that someone was trying to assassinate him. After Xiao Chen noticed Ji Changkong and Shi Yang, he understood what had happened. It was merely the aftershocks of their duel. Clearly, Ji Changkong had lost. When Ji Changkong saw Xiao Chen holding his sword, he said in an unfriendly manner, "Return my sword to me." Xiao Chen smiled faintly and he flicked his finger. The sword turned around and flew at Ji Changkong. After Ji Changkong caught the sword, he returned to his seat with an extremely unsightly expression on his face. Ji Changkong had not expected that after he left the Great Qin nation, he would not even be able to deal with a minor character. Xiao Chen walked over to Shi Yang slowly and said calmly, "The people of the Great Qin nation can only be side characters. Could it be that you think yourself to be the main character? Do you dare to say what you had said earlier again?" Xiao Chen had heard everything that the other party said earlier. He felt that it was incredibly funny. Although there were very few spirit veins in the Great Qin nation and there was not much competition, there were still peak experts like Ying Yu, Chu Chaoyun, and Leng Liasu. If any one of them came here, this person would not be a match for them. He did not understand where this person got his confidence from. Shi Yang mocked, "You are someone from the Great Qin nation as well. So what if I said that? I will say it twice, thrice, or even 4 more times. What can you do about that? Don't think you can scare me with just a simple trick. If you are really not convinced, feel free to make a move against me. I will show you what a true bladesman is." Xiao Chen did not say anything else. He stepped forward and executed the Dragon Claw Fist. He held his saber with his left hand and punched with his right. A fist wind howled and his aura grew exponentially. When Shi Yang saw that his opponent did not even draw his saber, he could not help but smile coldly. "Since you are seeking death, I will grant it to you." Shi Fong tilted himself back and grasped his saber with both hands. A saber light that continuously switched between large and small hacked down on Xiao Chen's fist. Bang! The fist wind exploded out and a surging shockwave swept through the surroundings, causing the fallen leaves to fly up. Shi Yang's arm trembled slightly, and his saber nearly flew out of his hand. He had not expected Xiao Chen to be so strong. Shocked, Shi Yang quickly retreated backward. Xiao Chen remained calm and activated the blood flame shoes on his feet. In a blink of an eye, he arrived before Shi Yang. He opened his fist and changed it into a claw. Then, he gathered back all the scattered energy. He swung heavily and the claw left bloody wounds on his opponent's chest. Damn it, I got tricked. It turns out that this person uses claw techniques. Shi Yang retreated once again. At the same time, he swung his saber, trying to stop Xiao Chen from swinging the claw again. Xiao Chen instantly clenched his hand and turned the claw into a fist. An intense fist wind flew out. This time, Xiao Chen infused it with the Azure Dragon Qi. The might of this punch blasted away the saber in Shi Yang's hand. However, it did not lose its might and continued onwards to the latter's chest. Boom! It tore Shi Yang's clothes and tossed him more than 100 meters into the air. The might of this fit completely exceeded everyone's expectations. They felt frightened when they saw this. Xiao Chen had not even drawn his saber, but he only used 3 attacks to defeat Shi Yang, a defeat that was overwhelming and easily obtained. Only the person who went to the same wrestling ring as Xiao Chen were not surprised. Xia Xian smiled gently and said, "This fellow finally found a superior grade earth-ranked fist technique. Indeed, his strength has increased tremendously." Shi Yang heavily fell onto the ground only after a long time. Then he gave off a dull thud and fainted. Shou Yang's friends stared at Xiao Chen in a hostile manner as they quickly rushed over to carry him away. This was especially so for the swordsman. A faint murderous intent appeared in his gaze. When Hua Yunfei and the others saw that Xiao Chen dealt with Shi Yang in 3 moves, their hearts could not help but sink. It was like something had shattered in there. Back at the plaza, when they first saw Xiao Chen, they even said that they would beat Xiao Chen up personally. Who knew that they were unable to even deal with a single minor character in this gathering? As for their target, he easily defeated that person in 3 moves. A sense of helplessness appeared in their hearts. They had not expected Xiao Chen would put so much distance between them within half a year. It seemed that there was no way they could surpass him anymore. Perhaps they might not even have the opportunity to close the gap, even by a tiny bit. Pa! 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 Zuo Mo, who sat at the center, watched the white-robed Xiao Chen with great interest. He started clapping and laughed. The white-robed bladesman, Xiao Chen, truly deserves his fame for obtaining 100 consecutive victories. You are truly formidable. He is that contestant with 100 consecutive victories. Many people in the courtyard instantly glanced over curiously. Hushed whispers filled the place. Although most of them had heard the story of someone obtaining 100 consecutive victories, many had not seen what he looked like or knew who he was. At this moment, everyone focused on Xiao Chen. The astonishment on their faces grew even larger than before. When Ji Changkong, Hua Yunfei, and the others heard that, they could not help but exchange glances with each other. There were only bitter smiles between them. Duan Muqing calmly said, "That day, at the Heavenly Sabre Pavilion, we have been all defeated. We had lost a significant portion of our luck there. We should have already expected such a scene today." The few of them sighed, feeling agony in their hearts. They did not wish to say anything else. This was probably how it felt to become someone else's stepping stone. As for them, they were not even qualified to be Xiao Chen's stepping stone anymore. One could easily imagine how upset they were now. Xiao Chen looked at Zuo Mo, Pei Xiaoshuan's mysterious senior brother. He said gently, "I was merely lucky, that was nothing much." Zuo Mo smiled gently, "Have nobody ever told you that luck is a kind of strength? I have wanted to experience your exquisite moves for a long time already. I wonder if I can have the opportunity to do so now." Xiao Chen nodded and said, "It is my honor." "Very well, I shall not stand on ceremony then." Zuo Mo's gaze turned cold and he gently pushed off the ground. He leapt up and sent a palm strike at Xiao Chen. Ka Ca. Xiao Chen stuck his saber, together with its scabbard, into the ground. Then, he stepped forward to welcome Zuo Mo. Xiao Chen executed the Dragon Claw Fist and sent a punch at his opponent's palm strike. A huge force exploded out and ripples spread into the surroundings, akin to waves on water. Who? The two retreated the moment they came into contact. Then, they turned around at the same time. As they turned, they dissipated the force of their opponent's strike. When the two landed, they looked at each other. Clearly, they were both somewhat astonished. The essence from the palm strike made Xiao Chen's finger hurt. His opponent's essence was purer than he had thought. It was unknown how much natural treasures he had consumed. Perhaps his cultivation technique was a heaven-ranked cultivation technique as well. Zuo Mo's astonishment was not smaller than Xiao Chen's. A pure vital qi surged over from his opponent's fist wind. However, when Zuo Mo looked at Xiao Chen, he could tell that his essence was as dense as his. He had not expected Xiao Chen to be able to stand his ground against him when only using vital qi. Shoo. After a short pause, the two started another round of exchanges. They fought each other in close combat, moving all over the courtyard. The two moved very fast. The weaker cultivators could only see two blurry figures moving about, they could not even see their exchanges. These two fellows are interesting. One uses the saber and the other summons spirit beasts. Yet, they are fighting in close combat. The myriad fiend palace's Chu Mu laughed softly and said, Zemo, Shinya, who do you think will obtain the victory in close combat? Xiao Chen. The both of them said together without any hesitation. Xiao Chen's close combat prowess and physical body strength had left a very deep impression on the two of them. At this moment, it was already very clear that Xiao Chen had obtained a higher-ranked fist technique. His only flaw had been patched up, so it was hard to imagine him losing. Chu Mu smiled and said, I'm afraid the both of you will be disappointed. Zuo Mo is using the superior grade earth-ranked martial technique, Flowing Cloud Palm. It has already reached great perfection, and in combination with his extremely pure essence, it would be hard to defeat him. The figures of the two flickered around the place. A strong wind howled and swept up all the fallen leaves in the courtyard. Dang! Dang! When the fallen leaves struck the tables and chairs, they pierced into them like knives. Several cultivators who were caught off guard ended up injured by them. Their clothes became tattered. Some people quickly worked together to shatter the fallen leaves flying at them. What a strong wind! The aftershock of their fight is so strong. This is not even their true power. They are merely using their supplementary techniques. Imagine how strong it would be if they were to fight for real. The crowd exclaimed as they watched the two fight. Astonishment appeared on their faces. It seems like these two were guaranteed a spot in the ancient desolate tower. Xiao Chen swung his hands around in midair. Sometimes, his left hand changed into a claw and his right hand into a fist, or vice versa. Occasionally, he would directly send out a fist wind. Xiao Chen's combat style seemed very strange, making it hard for his opponent to catch his rhythm. Zuo Mo's face sank as he kept sending out palm winds. He did his best to prevent Xiao Chen from advancing. It was hard to find an opening that he could attack. With the two interchanging styles, he did not dare to make any rash moves. Bang! 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 Explosions came from the air again. Vital qi and essence clashed with each other, generating shockwaves. The strong wind in the courtyard blew even stronger. The both of them retreated by 5 steps, standing in midair. Their clothes and hair fluttered in the strong wind. This is the first time I have seen a martial technique that changes between the claw and fist. However, if that is all the ability you have, then this is how far you will go. Zuo Mo shouted a war cry and his figure flashed forward. He sent out palm winds and the clouds in the sky joined together, merging into a sea of clouds. Explode. Zuo Mo sent out another palm strike and the flowing clouds gathered even more. When they got close to Xiao Chen, they exploded. A horrifying shockwave surged out. Xiao Chen crisscrossed his arms and took the stance of the crouching tiger hidden dragon. Following that, he moved back 100 meters. Flowing cloud burst. The unending chain of palm strikes sent flowing clouds at Xiao Chen akin to a fleet of cannons. Xiao Chen stood his ground in midair, not moving back even half a step. A tiger and a dragon roared around him as he withstood this unending chain of flowing cloud burst head-on. Bang! 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 The churning flowing clouds exploded in the air. The energy from the pure essence burst apart, forming new, bright and enchanting clouds in the air. The boundless beautiful clouds enveloped Xiao Chen, not allowing the crowd to see the situation inside. When Xhu Mu sensed the energy of the beautiful clouds, he smiled faintly and said, "I guessed correctly, right?" After reaching great perfection, the flowing cloud palms might at least doubles. The mysterious phenomenon it creates becomes very astonishing. The moment the light from the cloud fades away will be the moment Xiao Chen is defeated. Even if he has saber techniques that he had not used, Zuomo also has spirit beasts that he had not summoned. In the end, Xiao Chen is still slightly weaker than Zuomo. His 100 consecutive victories can only be explained as luck. Zhang Zimo looked at the bright beautiful clouds in the air. Then, he shook his head and said, "That might not be so. Are you still insisting on your opinions? We shall wait for the outcome of this fight then." Chu Mu could not understand why Zhang Zimo persisted on with his belief. Shoo! When the light completely scattered, Xiao Chen slowly revealed himself. His white clear wind robes fluttered non-stop in the air. His hair flew all over the place, but he did not seem to have a miserable expression on his face. Zuo Mo's expression changed slightly. He found it incredulous. He thought to himself, how strong exactly is this fellow's physical body? Even half-step martial monarchs would not dare to receive my flowing cloud burst lightly. Xiao Chen lowered his criss-crossing arms and slowly landed. He suppressed the surging qi and blood in his body. Then, he said, "Flowing cloud burst. Not bad. It's your turn to receive an attack from me." Berserk Dragon Fist. Xiao Chen shouted and his figure flickered. He circulated his vital qi for a cycle in his abdomen and then quickly sent the berserk vital qi into his arm. The muscles in his right arm instantly bulged up. The azure dragon tattoo also started to move around quickly. Xiao Chen felt like he was filled with limitless energy. Roar! The faint illusion of an azure dragon head appeared on Xiao Chen's arm. It quickly rushed at Zuomo carrying the might of the azure dragon. Flowing cloud burst. Xiao Chen's move looked very powerful, so Zuomo did not dare to be careless. He immediately infused all the floating white clouds into his right palm. A brilliant jade white light appeared in the middle of his palm. The crowd held their breath as they focused and looked carefully. The myriad fiend palaces Chu Mu had a surprised expression on his face. He had not expected Xiao Chen to be able to send out such a powerful attack. Bang! The bright palm clashed with the dragon head. An ear-splitting explosion roared out, and a semicircular sphere of energy appeared before the two as they clashed intensely. Slightly red. His surging essence was like a gushing river as it poured into his bright, jade-white palm. The light became brighter and brighter. Interesting, this is the first this I met someone with such surging essence. Xiao Chen could not help but feel excited. The qi whirlpool in his body spun quickly, and his essence and vital qi merged together. Boom! Xiao Chen's strength increased instantly. The dragon head roared angrily, and Zuomo flew out instantly. Xiao Chen shouted another war cry and took 5 steps forward in midair. He turned his fist into a claw and executed the claw form of the berserk dragon. Wukui! The dragon head twisted and changed. Soon, it turned into an azure claw. Xiao Chen pulled back his hand and then dashed forward. Kai! Kai! The azure dragon claw instantly left 5 horrifying, bloody wounds on Zuomo's chest. Xiao Chen coldly glanced at him as the dragon claw opened up. Then, the claw pressed heavily on Zuomo's chest. Zuo Mo vomited a mouthful of blood and fell onto the ground like a heavy sandbag. Xiao Chen proudly stood in midair. He scattered the energy of the Azure Dragon and the berserk energy instantly vanished into the wind. Unexpectedly, Zuo Mo is not even his opponent. Could this Xiao Chen be the strongest person in the Four Nations? It's hard to say. Zuo Mo's true strength lies in summoning spirit beasts to fight for him. I heard that he already has a rank 8 spirit beast in his spirit blood jade. Nothing is certain. Xiao Chen is a bladesman in the first place, however, he had not even drawn his saber. Regardless of the situation, Xiao Chen only had an advantage when they fought in close combat. As for who is stronger or weaker, we will still need to see them fight with their true strength before we will know. When the crowd saw Zuo Mo fall to the ground, they were all shocked. He had already become famous 2 years ago. His position as one of the top 20 in the previous 5-nation youth competition had been gained with his sweat and blood, there was no luck involved. It was unexpected that Zuo Mo got defeated so miserably by Xiao Chen, someone who had only emerged recently. Zhang Zimo laughed softly and said, "Chu Mo, I was correct, right? The defense of Xiao Chen's physical body can be said to be second to none under the martial monarch realm. Now that he has obtained a peak superior grade earth-ranked fist technique, he is like a tiger that obtained wings. In terms of close combat technique, regular fist masters would not be a match for him." Chu Mu muttered in a soft voice, "It looks like I have underestimated him. Obtaining 100 consecutive victories cannot simply be explained by luck. In 2 years, this person will definitely become my main competitor." Zuo Mo got to his feet in a somewhat miserable fashion. He looked at Xiao Chen, who was still in the air, and smiled bitterly. "It looks like it was rude of me to compete with you in close combat. I will be using my true strength from here on, so please draw your saber." Shoo! Xiao Chen landed on the ground and stretched out his left hand, tightly grasping onto the lunar shadow saber that was stuck in the ground. The beast-taming abode focused on summoning and raising spirit beasts. Xiao Chen's opponent fighting him for so long in close combat had already far exceeded his expectations. If Xiao Chen continued to use close combat, the exhaustion would be too great. He said, "You are too polite. Please, make your move." Zuo Mo, it has only been a year since we have last met and you are not even able to deal with an inferior grade martial king. This is too disappointing. Just at that moment, a disharmonious voice came from the air. The crowd looked up and saw 4 handsome young men above the courtyard. They wore embroidered robes and their aura was surging. Their gazes looked sinister as they floated in the air. Zuo Mo's expression changed greatly. Suddenly, a boundless hatred appeared in his eyes. He clenched his teeth and said, "Xie Ziwen." The more knowledgeable people below all had unsightly expressions as well. Xie Ziwen was the second disciple of the Evil Moon Pavilion's pavilion master. This Evil Moon Pavilion was one of the 10 great sects of the Great Jin Nation. Furthermore, he was the person who had eliminated Zuo Mo from the previous 5-nation youth competition. Why is he here in the ancient desolate lands? Everyone felt it was suspicious. Ha ha. There are many familiar people here. Ding Fengqiu, Zhang Zimo, Chu Mu, and Pei Xiaoxuan are here as well. Xie Ziwen led the other 3 people and slowly lowered their altitude to 100 meters above the ground, casually mentioning the names of some people in the crowd as he did so. Aside from the people whom he had called out, he could not even be bothered to look at the others. Although most of the people here were not happy about it, they did not show any dissatisfaction on their faces. In the previous 5-nation youth competition, Xie Ziwen had ranked 12th. He was just a little shy of entering the top 10 and standing at the peak of the entire continent. Xie Ziwen definitely had the capital to be arrogant and not care about most of them. Senior brother, it seems like there are no experts worth paying attention to here. Even if they entered the ancient desolate tower, it would be for naught. The marks of the Evil Moon Pavilion were embroidered on the collars of the three people behind him as well. They were clearly from the Evil Moon Pavilion as well. It seems like the people from the other four great nations are as weak as they were in the past. Xie Zuan smiled faintly and said, "That's not a problem, this is good for us. This means that our chances of entering the ancient desolate tower are better." The expressions of the people below immediately changed when they heard this. Since when could the people of the great Jin nation participate in the selection of the ancient desolate tower? Looking at the expressions of the people below, Xie Zuan smiled, "Ha ha. Don't be too shocked. The current Heavenly Extermination Union's union leader owes my master a huge favor. This is him paying back this favor. All of you must be very upset. Now, you have 4 spots less. Ha ha." Xie Zuan revealed a playful smile in the air. He did not care about the crowd below at all. He behaved like he could easily defeat everyone here and had already secured 4 spots for his group. Let's go, it seems like there are no opponents worth taking note of. Unexpectedly, Zuo Mo could not even defeat an inferior grade martial king. This is pointless. Shoo. A blue vein was bulging out on Zuo Mo's forehead. He quickly formed hand seals with his right hand and immediately summoned out a peak rank 7 red-tailed eagle. It was unknown for how long the red-tailed eagle had lived for already. Its body was extremely huge and its wingspan was at least 20 meters. Zuo Mo stood on it as it flew and prevented Xie Zuan and the others from leaving. "I don't seem to recall inviting you to this gathering. Do you think this is your house, and you can come and leave as you please? Have you even asked me, the owner, for permission?" As the red-tailed eagle flapped its wings, Zuo Mo looked expressionlessly at the person who had eliminated him in the previous 5-nation youth competition. Xie Zuan stood straight up in the air and looked at Zuo Mo indifferently. He said, "Are you looking for a fight? Have you thought it over carefully? If I injure you, you will lose your chance to participate in the arena battles happening 5 days later. By then, don't blame me for being merciless." Zuo Mo said coldly, "Feel free to make your move. I have already waited for more than 2 years to take my revenge. It had been a long time since then. Now that you have delivered yourself to me, I won't have to wait anymore. Senior brother, should we make a move? From the way he looks, he has just advanced to superior grade martial king not too long ago. He is still far from reaching peak superior grade martial king. There is no need for you to make a move yourself." Xie Zuan smiled gently and said, "It's fine, I will let him know how big is the gap between us. The me from 2 years ago is completely different from who I am now. That way, I can squash his dreams of climbing to the top 20 again." When the group heard this, they did not say anything else. They quickly made way and gave the 2 space to fight in the air. Zuo Mo had a very grave expression on his face. He did not dare to be careless. His figure flashed and left the red-tailed eagle he was standing on, rushing at Xie Zimo. Boom. Boom. As Zuo Mo moved, he quickly formed hand seals with his hands. Accompanied by some loud sounds, 3 rank 7 flying spirit beasts appeared in the air behind him. Go! Zuo Mo waved his hand and the 3 flying spirit beasts flew quickly at Xie Zuan. They worked together with the red-tailed eagle to deal with him. A rank 7 spirit beast was equivalent to a superior grade martial king. Furthermore, these spirit beasts were specially trained. Hence, they were stronger than spirit beasts of the same rank. The beast taming abode would make every tamed spirit beast undergo all sorts of competitions and fights for long periods of time. Thus, the ferocity of this kind of spirit beasts were even more horrifying than that of regular cultivators. However, these were not their trump cards. The most dangerous thing was that the disciple of the beast taming abode had a special method to control these spirit beasts like they were their own arms. That was why although Xiao Chen had suppressed Zuo Mo in terms of close combat, many people were still holding on to the opinion that Zuo Mo would not lose. Controlling spirit beasts was the true strength of a beast-taming Abad's disciple. Close combat was merely supplementary. Bang! 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 Xie Zuan sent a flurry of palm strikes to block the attacks of the 4 flying spirit beasts. A strong wind blew, making many of the spirit beasts' feathers fall off. Although Xie Zuan could not break out of the spirit beast's encirclement, he did not feel any pressure. With a relaxed expression on his face, he relied on his palm strikes alone to suppress the 4 flying spirit beasts. When Zuo Mo saw that the battle was tilting in his opponent's favor, he summoned out another 2 flying spirit beasts and did his best to control the 4 spirit beasts simultaneously. Now, there were 6 flying spirit beasts surrounding Xie Zuan. As Zuo Mo was controlling so many spirit beasts simultaneously, he had an exhausted expression on his face, and sweat trickled down from his forehead. However, Zuo Mo's efforts paid off. Under the attacks of the 6 spirit beasts, Xie Zuan's expression became more serious. He was no longer as relaxed as before. How strong! Unexpectedly, Zuo Mo is now able to control 6 spirit beasts at the same time. He has probably reached the 7th layer of his beast-controlling art. Maybe he will be able to take his revenge this time. No matter how strong the geniuses of the great Jin nation are, they are still limited by their cultivation realm. When the crowd saw that the fight was tilting in Zuo Mo's favor, they became excited. Regardless of the situation, everyone was a member of one of the other 4 great nations. No one would feel good when the people of the great Jin nation won. However, they all knew that they were not a match for Xie Zuan. If Zuo Mo could help them vent their frustrations, they would naturally feel good about it. Shoo! Just at that moment, Zuo Mo clenched his teeth and formed more hand seals. Another 2 rank 7 flying spirit beasts appeared. There are 8 spirit beasts now. There is hope. The crowd could not help but say excitedly. Xiao Chen grasped his lunar shadow saber tightly as he glanced at Xie Zuan's 3 junior brothers. He discovered that they were very calm. Xiao Chen thought to himself, it seems that things are not as simple as they think. No matter how many rank 7 spirit beasts there are, they might not be able to suppress Xie Zuan. This is never-ending, break for me. Seeing Zuo Mo summon another 2 spirit beasts, Xie Zuan's expression turned cold. He snorted and a blazing and resplendent flame started burning on his palm. Flaming Ring Wind Palm. Xie Zuan clapped his hands together and the blazing flames instantly shot out from his body, moving into the surroundings in the shape of rings. Bang! The first flame ring knocked the 6 spirit beasts back. Then, the second flame ring burnt all the feathers of the 6 flying spirit beasts. Flame ring blasted out, it threw all of the burning spirit beasts into a miserable state. As the flame rings radiated from Xie Zuan's body, their power did not diminish. It looked like wave and wave of flame spreading out from his body, bathing him in a fiery glow. The might of the flame rings grew stronger with each wave. By the 6th ring, all of the spirit beasts sustained severe injuries and were on their last breath. Zuo Mo's expression changed greatly as he quickly recalled the severely injured spirit beasts. He had raised all of these spirit beasts from a young age, and each was worth cities. As long as they did not die, there was a hope of saving them if he drew them back into the spirit blood jade space. You think you can leave? You wanted to use a measly group of beasts to injure me. Xie Zuan responded to Zuo Mo with a cold glare. He then swung both of his flaming palms 6 times. Bang! 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 6 huge palms of flame appeared from nowhere, shattering some of Zuo Mo's spirit beasts to bits and leaving them without a complete corpse. Zuo Mo revealed a pained expression. He had not expected Xie Zuan to act so ruthlessly. Unexpectedly, he had killed the spirit beasts. With a resolute gaze, Zuo Mo's hand moved quickly, leaving afterimages. As he formed complicated hand seals, a spirit blood jade slowly released a dazzling light. Zuo Mo emitted a horrifying aura, causing a faint pressure to bear down on the others. A rank 8 spirit beast. Unfortunately, you no longer have the opportunity to summon it. Xie Zuan's figure flashed, leaving behind a blazing trail of fire. Everywhere he passed, the air seemed burnt. Two of the rank 7 spirit beasts launched themselves forward, trying to buy Zuomo time. Xie Zuan laughed maniacally, and his figure disappeared from the air. Xie Zuan broke through the obstruction of the two spirit beasts. When he reappeared, he had already arrived before Zuomo. Nine-winged demonic ape, emerge. Zuo-Mi finally completed the final hand seal. His complexion was now extremely pale. A halo appeared in front of his chest, and a horrifying aura poured out. The roar of a beast came from within. The sound waves were horrifying. They caught Xie Zuan in their force and nearly blew him away. By the time he stabilized himself, the nine-winged demonic ape's head already peeked out from the halo. Xie Zuan roared ferociously, "Return from where you came." The resplendent flame appeared on his right palm again. The flame was dazzling and hot. It looked as if he held a miniature sun. Bang! Xie Zuan smashed a palm strike on the nine-winged demonic ape's head. The nine-winged demonic ape cried out in pain, and the attack unexpectedly pushed it back. The halo also started to close. Pussy. Originally, Zuomo needed to expend a great deal of mental energy to summon a rank 8 spirit beast. Now that the summoning had failed, Zuomo's complexion grew so pale that he looked bloodless. He also vomited mouthfuls of blood. Zuomo wobbled in the air as if he would fall at any moment. Xie Zuan laughed coldly, "You sought this yourself. Don't blame me for being ruthless." Scram. Flames gathered in Xie Zuan's palm once more as he pressed it towards Zuomo mercilessly. If this attack landed, Zuomo would have to spend at least half a year to recover. Zuomo would no longer stand a chance in the arena battles taking place in 5 days. His future might be ruined. Wukui. Just at this moment, a dazzling purple saber chi flickering with electricity sped towards the middle of the two. The timing of this attack was quite good. It was exactly the moment Xie Zuan sent out his palm strike. It was neither late nor earlier. This forced Xie Zuan to give up on his attack in order to defend against this saber chi. Bang! Xie Zuan turned his body and diverted his palm strike to the dazzling saber chi. The saber chi instantly shattered and turned into sparks. The saber chi itself was not very strong. However, the state contained within it was extremely powerful. Xie Zuan was not prepared for it, so he was forced to retreat a few meters. Zuomo took advantage of this opportunity to land quickly. His comrades beside him took out medicinal pills and infused essence into him to treat his injuries. Xie Zuan stabilized himself and swept his gaze through the place. He saw Xiao Chen below, still holding his stance. His expression turned frosty, and he landed on the ground with a "su" sound. "How dare you, an inferior grade martial king, attack me? Are you tired of living?" When facing Xie Zuan's angry shouts, he remained calm. He said, "It is just an exchange of moves. There is no need to push things to a drastic level." Xiao Chen had only just met Zuomo recently, and their relationship had not reached a level where Xiao Chen would give him a hand. However, when he saw Xie Zuan looking down of the people from the other 4 great nations, he felt dissatisfied in his heart. Since Xiao Chen was capable of lending a hand, then it was fine. He would consider it as making a friend. When Xie Zuan heard this, he could not help but laugh. Interesting, since when can an insignificant inferior grade martial king lectured me like this? It seems like you have sat at the bottom of the well for too long. Didn't your elders impart any logic to you? Today, I will teach you a lesson on behalf of your elders, to respect the seniors from the great Jin nation. TL note. Sat at the bottom of the well. This refers to the idiom, frog in the well, ignorant of the world. Pa. After Xie Zuan spoke, he sent out a palm strike. A huge palm of flame pressed down towards Xiao Chen as it burned at a high temperature. Wukui. Xiao Chen leapt up, and his saber flickered with purple electricity. He swung his saber upwards and instantly hacked the huge flame palm in half. The flame palm scattered into the surroundings, turning into sparks and vanishing. Xie Zuan's expression changed. He looked at the flickering light on the saber, and his pupils constricted. This fellow's cultivation is low, but his state of thunder is extraordinarily strong. It is about the equivalent of my great perfection state of fire. It looks like I have to use 70% of my strength to defeat him. Dance of 1,000 flames. Xie Zuan shouted, and resplendent wisps of flames appeared above his fingertips. He quickly soared into the air. After a moment, Xie Zuan rose more than 50 meters. The 10-finger-sized wisps of flame instantly grew 600 or 700 meters like a long strip of ribbon. Xie Zuan wiggled his 10 fingers, and the flames danced like ribbons in the air. They looked extremely beautiful under the sunlight. Xie Zuan controlled the flame ribbons to quickly envelope Xiao Chen. Flames should not look that captivating. When Xiao Chen felt their horrifying temperatures, he gave up on the notion of testing his physical body against them. Dang! 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 Xiao Chen used his saber containing the state of thunder to hack at the flame ribbons. Unexpectedly, when his saber struck the flame ribbons, it was like striking an actual weapon. There were clanging sounds and countless sparks. Xie Zuan laughed maniacally, and he increased the speed of his fingers. He also moved quickly towards Xiao Chen, changing his position in the air continuously. This cut off Xiao Chen's escape despite his attempt. Each time, the flame ribbons flew over again and blocked his way. Kai. Xiao Chen took a deep breath. His right hand, which held the saber, brushed against a flame ribbon and was immediately scorched. It was extremely painful, and he nearly dropped his saber. Wukui. Xie Zuan took advantage of this opportunity to spin his index finger for a round. The flame ribbon knotted itself and punched towards Xiao Chen's face. Not only did Xie Zuan want to defeat Xiao Chen, but he also wanted to teach him an unforgettable lesson. He wanted Xiao Chen to know that he was not qualified to do certain things due to his status. Dang! Xiao Chen's heart turned cold. This fellow was savage. He grasped his lunar shadow saber and knocked away the flame ribbon flying at him. Xiao Chen glanced at the burn on the back of his arm and fell deep into thought. It looks like this is not a helpless situation. I should keep observing. Countless flame ribbons fluttered through the air. Xiao Chen danced with these ribbons, dodging them by twisting, somersaulting, or tilting his body. Yu Ying Dao Shi Bu Shi De Wei Wu, Tan Kai Yi Xie, Shi Zai Bai Bu Kai De Huo Yan Da. Occasionally, Xiao Chen would brandish the lunar shadow saber to push away the unavoidable ribbons. Everyone in the crowd below had stood without realizing it. They were stunned when they saw the long flame ribbons gliding through the air. What martial technique is this? Why is it so strange? It had managed to completely envelop a person and contain them. Given that Xie Zuan can control his flames in such an exquisite manner, his state of fire has truly reached an incredulous level. I wonder how Xiao Chen will deal with this. This move seems unfathomable. Unless one scatters this technique before its execution, I think a defeat is a guarantee after the ribbons envelope an opponent. Perhaps this is an ancient-era martial technique. Within all of the Tianwu continent, only that place has complete inheritances from the ancient eras. Otherwise, it would not be so strange. Everyone discussed this odd technique. It had astonished them all. Many of them there tried to imagine what they would do if they were Xiao Chen and whether they could do better than him. However, their conclusion was a disappointment. Unless they broke the technique at the start or their essence could overwhelm the other party and break the flame ribbons, defeat was just a matter of time. Let's see how long you can last. Seeing that he had been unable to hurt Xiao Chen truly for a long time, Xie Zuan started to grow frustrated. After all, in his opinion, His opponent barely qualified is a reason for him to make a move. If Xie Zuan could not settle this quickly, it would be embarrassing even if he won in the end. Xie Zuan started rhythmically moving his index finger. The outermost 5 flame ribbons suddenly formed a pillar which locked on Xiao Chen. The inner 5 flame ribbons tangled together and flew at their target. Their speed was at least double of what it was previously. There was almost no time to dodge. Xiao Chen remained calm. Instead, he rejoiced in his heart. The opportunity he had waited for had finally arrived. He used his right hand to return the lunar shadow saber to its sheath quickly. An azure energy rapidly poured into his palm. When the tangled flame ribbons drew near, Xiao Chen tilted his body and grabbed them with his right hand. Suddenly, an azure dragon claw appeared and grasped that pillar of flame ribbons. Pu Kai. Pu Kai. The dragon claw grasped the incredibly hot pillar, continuously giving off sizzling sounds. Sparks flew into the surroundings. Xiao Chen had tested the temperature of the flames earlier. He knew that they were not as frightening as he had imagined. With the strength of his physical body and the full usage of his vital qi, he could capture the flame ribbon without injury if he could endure the heat. Xiao Chen had waited for his opponent to compress his flames together for a long time. Blood Flame Shoe's secret technique, activate. Xiao Chen shouted, and the patterns on his shoes instantly lit up. Xiao Chen's speed reached Mach 4 in an instant. Xiao Chen's figure flashed towards the back. He held onto the 5 flame ribbons as he leapt out of the encirclement, immediately feeling relief. Xie Zuan gaped in horror at the flame ribbons that had already stretched beyond 1,000 meters. He had not expected Xiao Chen to withstand the temperature of the flames. After a moment of shock, Xie Zuan reacted. He moved his 5 fingers to control the other 5 outermost ribbons, increasing their length again. Xie Zuan intended to trap Xiao Chen within the ribbons again. This time, as long as he managed to trap Xiao Chen, he did not mind spending more time and avoiding any risks. Xiao Chen smiled when he saw the extended flame ribbons. How could he make the same error twice? Go down. Xiao Chen shouted. He merged his vital qi in essence. His strength reached 400,000 kilograms of force as he pulled on the 5 ribbons in his right hand. Then, the crowd saw an astonishing scene. Unexpectedly, Xiao Chen had yanked the ribbons hard enough to send their master flying through the air, and he fell heavily towards the ground. TL note. It seems like the flames ribbons were attached to Xie Zuan's fingers, and he was not telepathically controlling them. Bang! Xie Zuan fell heavily into the river 1,000 meters outside of the courtyard. A huge splash flew into the air, and the water rippled. Kai! Kai! When the flame ribbons fell into the water, they continued to burn. As water and fire did not mix well, the fire increased the temperature of the water until it boiled. Steam rose ceaselessly from the surface of the river. Soon, the steam spread through the entire place. Xiao Chen felt the flame ribbons in his hands start to weaken. He did not hesitate to yank the flame ribbons up. A huge force immediately tore Xie Zuan from the water. It seems that he cannot scatter this dance of 1,000 flames in an instant, Xiao Chen realized. Otherwise, the moment I had caught hold of the ribbons, Xie Zuan would have scattered them immediately. This is good. Xiao Chen gripped the flame ribbon with the dragon claw powered by his vital qi in essence, flinging his opponent to the ground without pause. Instantly, Xie Zuan seemed bound by rope, and Xiao Chen tossed him across the ground. Xie Zuan's body crashed into everything within 1,000 meters radius of Xiao Chen. Every time he crashed into the ground, the impact created a massive pit. Bang! 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 Deep pits immediately filled the surrounding courtyard. The commotion from the fight drew the passing cultivators. Xiao Chen, who was in the sky, looked like he was playing with a toy. He flung around a peak superior grade martial king. Everyone's jaws dropped. They felt that this scene was incredulous. Damn it! His strength is ridiculous. All of the outstanding talents from the various nations occupying the courtyard could not help but exclaim. Surprisingly, Xiao Chen toyed with an expert from the great Jin nation's Evil Moon Pavilion. About 7 minutes ago, perils had still surrounded Xiao Chen. In only 7 minutes, the situation had changed completely. It happened so fast that no one had time to react to it. Shoo! Xiao Chen's hand relaxed, and he discovered that the flame ribbons had already vanished. He examined Xie Zuan on the ground and did not hesitate to rush over. His figure flashed, and as he flew closer, he executed the roaming dragon's 9 transformations, creating 9 figures that looked identical. Xie Zuan lay miserably within a deep pit. His hair was messy, and his complexion was pale. Blood trickled from his lips, and his clothes were tattered. When he saw Xiao Chen land, a look of hatred flashed in his eyes. He held his palms together, and rings of flames appeared, spreading out from his body relentlessly. This was one of his best techniques, the flaming ring wind palm. Bang! 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 The blazing flames carried a ferocious energy. They shattered all of Xiao Chen's clones, making them vanish. When Xie Zuan saw the final figure in the air, he shouted coldly, "Die!" Xie Zuan pulled back all of his flame rings and gathered all of the fire-attributed energy into his right palm. A flame as resplendent as the sun appeared on Xie Zuan's palm. The surrounding air seemed to be burned by this flame. Countless stars appeared in the air. They glowed like fluorescent lamps. Boom! The palm wind struck the final Xiao Chen and blasted him to bits. He died without an intact corpse. Oh no! It broke in one move. Xie Zuan's expression changed greatly. Xie Zuan quickly spun around and sent out a palm strike. An intense flaming palm wind instantly blasted outward. Ka Ca. Xiao Chen's true body appeared. His right hand grasped his saber hilt firmly as he instantly executed drawing the saber with the fastest speed he could muster. A purple bolt of lightning tore through the surging flames, hacking at Xie Zuan. Pu Si. In the time for a spark to fly, Xiao Chen's sudden attack broke through Xie Zuan's defenses, leaving a long wound across the other party's shoulder. Bang! The surging energy from the saber knocked Xie Zuan's body back 100 meters. Flickering electricity lingered on Xie Zuan's wound. He was horrified. What martial technique is this? He managed to hide his killing chi completely. This fellow is too scary. I cannot let him live. Otherwise, he will become a big problem. He is already so powerful as an inferior grade martial king. In another 2 years, he will be even stronger. By the time the 5-nation youth competition begins, he might even totally suppress me. After Xie Zuan made up his mind, he glared coldly at Xiao Chen and said, "Very good, you actually injured me. Cripple your cultivation now, and I will spare you from death. Otherwise, don't blame me for forcing your fall." A saber light appeared on the lunar shadow saber. Xiao Chen laughed softly and said, "You really are arrogant. Open your eyes, and look at the current situation. Stop living in your dreams and believing in the myth of the great Jin nation. Times have changed. Do you really think that this is still the era in which the great Jin nation genius dominate wherever they go? The era of geniuses was just budding. Geniuses had appeared everywhere. No matter who it was, if they were ignorant of the world and become arrogant, they would only be left behind. Even he, Xie Zuan, one of the top 20 of the previous 5-nation youth competition, would not be an exception. Even the great powers had to set aside their previous mentality and be down to earth. Only then could they continue moving forward. It looks like you won't shed tears until you see the coffin. You will immediately learn whether am I arrogant or not. TL note. Not shedding tears until the coffin is seen. This means not to show regret until failing completely. Xie Zuan snorted coldly and executed his state of flame to its peak. The temperature began to rise throughout the area within 500 meters. Ethereal images of flames were scattered around the courtyard. 1,000 flame palm. Xie Zuan sent out another palm strike. The huge flame palm appeared so solid that even the palm lines were visible. Boom. 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 Xie Zuan took a deep breath and released his killing qi. His palm darted around quickly, and the flame palm that filled the air dove for Xiao Chen. His peak state of fire is indeed impressive, Xiao Chen muttered as he watched the flame palm head for him. Xiao Chen removed the strip of cloth from around his forehead, and the red mark there started flashing. The purple saber light started to flash scarlet as well. Wukui breaks the heavens. Xiao Chen grasped his saber with both hands and merged the state of thunder and state of massacre. The purple and red lights on the saber formed a strange beam of light. When the Wukui tree above him had completely formed, the beam of light elongated. With the aid of the state of massacre, the electric beam swept across the palms wildly. When the beam of light touched the flame palms, it swept them up like fallen leaves. They then turned into sparks and vanished into nothing. After breaking the other party's 1,000 flame palm, Xiao Chen did not relent. He used the Wukui Sabre technique's 8th move, which he had never used before. The hot and sunny day suddenly turned dark, and boundless thunderclouds spread across the sky as thunder rumbled. Xiao Chen's aura rose to its limits. Xie Zuan's expression vastly changed. His figure flashed, quickly retreating backward. Earlier, when Xiao Chen had played with Xie Zuan like a yo-yo, he had suffered significant internal injuries. After that, due to a lapse in judgment, he received a blow to his shoulder. After Xie Zuan had incurred multiple injuries, he thought that when he executed the 1,000 flame palm with his state of fire, he could definitely defeat Xiao Chen. Who could predict that this Xiao Chen would show one trump card after another? He had grasped two different states. When he merged the state of massacre and the state of thunder, he could suppress Xie Zuan's state. Now, as Xie Zuan witnessed this terrifying saber technique, the only thought in his heart was to dodge. Wukui moves heaven, Xiao Chen shouted, and the thunderclouds in the sky moved as the saber directed. They swiftly gathered in the sky. The thunder clouds formed a scarlet Wukui tree trunk. The trunk grew rapidly, and leaves quickly covered the branches, covering the sky. The Wukui tree was now 100 meters tall. Rustle. Rustle. It was unknown whether it was their imagination or an illusion, but the instant the Wukui tree formed, the crowd below felt as though the entire sky trembled. The natural laws seemed to have changed. As Xie Zuan retreated, he discovered that he was not gaining any ground. Damn it. The natural laws have changed slightly. There is no way to dodge his attack, Xie Zuan realized in horror. The Wukui Sabre technique was an ancient-era martial technique that the Thunder Emperor, Sang Mu, had modified. The final 3 sure kill techniques were each stronger than the one before it. They were at the limits of what a peak superior grade Earth-ranked martial technique could reach. After Xiao Chen had learned the Wukui move's heaven, he had never used it. This move was so strong that even he was not confident of controlling it. This was especially true when Xiao Chen merged in the state of massacre. He had no idea how powerful would it be after doing so. Once Xiao Chen used it, no one under the half-step martial monarch realm could counter it. Even a half-step martial monarch would not dare receive it head-on. If they did, they would pay a heavy price. Xiao Chen would not use it unless he had to. However, once he used it, there was no chance of withdrawing the attack. Xie Zuan was strong and fairly talented. Since Xiao Chen had already offended him, there was no need to hold back. Xiao Chen had to injure him severely and make him lose his qualifications to enter the ancient desolate tower. Otherwise, he would only allow his opponent to grow stronger. Boom. Under Xiao Chen's directions, the 100 meters tall divine Wukui tree descended from the sky. Everywhere it passed, thunder roared, and scarlet bolts of lightning cut through the air. The color of the sky changed as if it were the apocalypse. Xie Zuan was startled, and his expression grew unsightly. He closed his eyes, and pressed his palms together. A gentle glowing flame slowly enveloped him. Since I cannot run or dodge, I can only face it head-on. When the Wukui tree in the sky descended, Xie Zuan suddenly opened his eyes. The surrounding gentle flames gathered into his palm. Xie Zuan shouted a war cry and smashed his palm low against the Wukui tree trunk. Bang! The two huge energies clashed in midair. A purple energy ripple rapidly radiated outward through the air. The space seemed as if it had been cut in half. When the huge force pressed down, Xie Zuan immediately vomited a mouthful of blood. Blood poured from his pores. Shoo! The palm strike tossed the divine tree into the sky again. However, there were no signs of it breaking. Even the direction of its fall did not change. The rebound from the divine Wukui tree caused Xiao Chen some discomfort. He thought to himself, this person is indeed strong. Despite the heavy attack of the Wukui moves heaven, he could counter like this. Again. Bang! 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 The divine Wukui tree with a vast aura crashed towards Xie Zuan repeatedly under Xiao Chen's direction. Certainly, Xie Zuan was exceptionally strong. Although his injuries were more severe than before, he managed to repeat this feat 4 or 5 times, enduring up until now. The many cultivators who watched from the sky were extremely shocked when they saw this. Under the attacks of the divine tree, the land under Xie Zuan's feet sank deeply. Blood poured from his 7 orifices. It was simply horrific. Just as Xie Zuan could no longer hold on, a strong, boundless aura flew over. A black-robed old man smashed a palm strike against the divine Wukui tree. Ka-ca. Ka-ca. It was unknown how much force was behind this palm strike. The entire divine Wukui tree instantly cracked down the middle. After a moment, it became a scarlet shockwave, moving with the wind. When Xie Zuan saw the black-robed old man, he immediately relaxed. He said weakly, "Second Martial Uncle, why are you here?" After the black-robed old man dealt with the divine Wukui tree, he turned to Xie Zuan and said, "To think you are not even embarrassed to ask that. If I had not heard the commotion, this person might have beaten you to death. I told you long ago. Times have changed. Yet, you still maintained the same mindset as the past. Even if you had managed to enter the ancient desolate tower, the waves would have swept you up, and you would have died on the beach." Xie Zuan did not take the old man's words to heart. He pointed at Xiao Chen and said, "Second Martial Uncle, kill him. You can't let him go. All my internal organs have suffered injuries. I most likely cannot participate in the arena battles for the ancient desolate tower." When the black-robed old man heard this, he checked Xie Zuan's injuries. His expression immediately shifted. He shot Xiao Chen a frosty glare. Xiao Chen instantly felt as though a terrifying force watched him. His racing heart slowed to a crawl under the old man's gaze. Xiao Chen could not help but feel astonished. Unexpectedly, this black-robed old man is a martial monarch. The black-robed old man withdrew his gaze and said coldly, "You really are courageous. You even dare offend the evil moon pavilion. You better not leave this ancient desolate land for the rest of your life." After the old man spoke, he ignored Xie Zuan's request and carried him, quickly leaving Xiao Chen's sight. He left as fast as he came. Just as Xiao Chen felt that it was strange that the other party had not taken any action, another strong aura arrived behind him. It was the old man who had announced the date of the arena battles that day at the Tianwu Plaza. He looked in the direction Xie Zuan and his martial uncle left. Then, he smiled coldly and said, "He is wise. He knows that his evil moon pavilion cannot afford to display arrogance here." Xiao Chen suddenly understood everything. Now he knew why Xie Zuan's martial uncle had not dared take action. He responded to the old man in the sky, "This junior is Xiao Chen. Many thanks to senior for the assistance. Might I ask for senior's name?" The old man smiled gently and floated down. He carefully measured Xiao Chen up and said, "Not bad. You have certainly not obtained your 100 consecutive victories by chance. This old man is Shi Heilong. You can address me as Senior Shi. Xiao Chen nodded and expressed his gratitude again. When the other outstanding talents in the courtyard saw the old man, they all flew over and greeted him respectfully. Shi Heilong turned to Xiao Chen and said, "Today, you have done the Heavenly Extermination Union a big favor. As long as you are in the ancient desolate land, I can guarantee that no one from the Evil Moon Pavilion will dare to do anything to you. I have something small for you, consider it a thank you gift from me." The other party tossed over a pill bottle. Xiao Chen opened it and sniffed. He smelled a heavy medicinal fragrance. When one smelled it, one felt drunk. The internal injuries that Xiao Chen had accumulated after the consecutive battles felt relief when he inhaled this fragrance. Surprisingly, this was a medicinal pill that treated internal injuries. The fragrance alone was quite effective. One could easily imagine the rank of this pill. Xiao Chen quickly expressed his gratitude once more. After Xiao Chen pondered for a moment, he understood what the Senior Shi had meant by doing the Heavenly Extermination Union a big favor. Thinking about it, the Heavenly Extermination Union had not wanted to let Xie Zuan enter the selection for the ancient desolate tower. However, as they owed them a favor, their hand was forced. Now that Xiao Chen had injured Xie Zuan so heavily, Xie Zuan could not participate in the selection. The Heavenly Extermination Union's people had paid back their favor in addition to achieving their aims. Their satisfaction came easily. You should have no problems obtaining one of the 20 spots. We look forward to seeing how many floors you can climb in the ancient desolate tower. After the old man finished speaking, he did not remain. After his figure flashed a few times, he was already a kilometer away. The strength of a martial monarch was truly unfathomable. His speed alone astonished this group of outstanding talents. Xiao Chen, thank you for helping me earlier. The beast-taming Abad's Zuo Mo stepped forward to thank Xiao Chen, cupping his hand in respect as he did so. Xiao Chen's response was soft, "There is no need to thank me, it was just a matter of convenience." However, Zuo Mo smiled bitterly. It was indeed a matter of convenience. However, at that moment, Xie Zuan was extremely furious. Furthermore, a sizable power, the Evil Moon Pavilion, backed him. If anyone wanted to help, they would have to consider the consequence first. This was not a helping hand that anyone would dare extend. Also, not everyone could do it so accurately. Zuo Mo looked up and said sincerely to Xiao Chen, "I will not continue to thank you, then. Let's meet again in the ancient desolate tower. I hope that we both can reach heights that no one ever has before. After that, we will go to the 5-nation youth competition and fight to force those arrogant great Jin nation geniuses to lower their heads in shame." Xiao Chen smiled gently and said nothing more. The gathering came to an end. Originally, it was a gathering meant for investigating potential opponents. They had not expected the situation to turn out like this. Everyone's initial amazement when they looked at Xiao Chen had now turned into respect. Although Xiao Chen and Zuo Mo had not fought in the end, they were familiar with each other's strength. As of now, Xiao Chen could be considered to have triumphed over Zuo Mo, becoming the strongest youth in the other 4 great nations. The young geniuses who could rank above him were likely only the peak geniuses of the great Jin nation. The distance between himself and the others was now clear. After the crowd dispersed, Xia Xian looked at Xiao Chen and said, "Xiao Chen, now that you have offended the Evil Moon Pavilion, although the Heavenly Extermination Union currently protects you, they might not be able to prevent them from playing some small tricks. Why don't you stay at the Thousand Sword Pavilion's branch for the time being, until the arena battles start?" Now that Xia Xian had invited Xiao Chen twice, he was too embarrassed to reject her again. Furthermore, Xia Xian's offer made sense. It was very easy for the other party to play some small tricks. Although he was not afraid of such things, it was better to avoid the trouble. So, he accepted Xia Xian's invitation. As the two left for the Thousand Sword Pavilion's branch, a scar-faced man stood in the top of a tree outside the courtyard, staring at Xiao Chen expressionlessly. If Xiao Chen had noticed this person, he would have noticed that this person was the Dark Church remnant who snatched away the martial sage's body on Chinran Island. It is indeed the Azure Dragon's chi. He used it several times in the wrestling ring and a few times today. I can return and tell the Deputy Church Master that I have confirmed it. On a nameless island outside of Desolate City, a black stone coffin occupied a secret room in the middle of the island. A preserved corpse lay inside the coffin. Sticky red liquid filled the coffin, bubbling continuously. Strands of red energy slowly poured into the corpse. The corpse looked alive. Within the liquid, its skin had a certain sheen to it. It did not look dead at all. When examining the appearance of the corpse, one would realize that it was the body of the martial sage that the scar-faced man had claimed from Chinran Island. Surrounding the coffin were cultivators in black robes embroidered with red clouds. They watched the corpse inside the coffin nervously. Occasionally, they added more ingredients to the coffin. A wrinkled, black-robed man with a sinister atmosphere lingered near the wall. His eyes glowed with excitement, and he was clearly filled with anticipation. As the old man stood there, he was like a big ball of shadow. The originally dim secret room seemed to grow even darker with his presence. How is it? How much longer does it need before this corpse is refined into a demonic corpse? The black-robed old man's hoarse voice echoed through the secret room. A cultivator stopped what he was doing and responded respectfully to the old man, replying to Deputy Church Master Ding, "We still need another half a year until his refinement is complete. There is nothing more we can do about the long wait. Otherwise, we could have used it in the war against the Blood Wolf gang." It was unknown if the Dark Church Master was dead or alive. Those who normally revealed themselves were the three Deputy Church Masters. Aside from this old man, the other two Deputy Church Masters frequently wandered about and ignored the management of the Dark Church. Hence, the old man before them was the true leader of the Dark Church. The old man smiled and said, "It's fine, it's not that long, just half a year. This is a rare martial sage that had cultivated the physical body. You might not even find one once every 1,000 years. As for the Blood Wolf gang, there is no need to bother with them. They are only minor characters." Dong. 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 Knocking sounds originated from outside the secret room. When the stone door opened, a person surrounded by black chi came before Deputy Church Master Ding and whispered a few words. When Deputy Church Master Ding heard everything, his face lit up with joy. He waved his hand to dismiss that person and turned to the four refining the martial sage corpse. He instructed, "Stay here in this secret room for half a year and do not leave. When everything is complete, I will be sure to reward all of you richly." The few quickly nodded. The old man left the room and entered a long hall. The scar-faced man had been waiting there for a long time. When he saw the old man, he immediately bowed and greeted his superior. Wuyong greets the acting church master. Acting Church Master Ding's wrinkled face revealed a smile. He said, "There is no need to stand on ceremony. Do you have any good news for me?" Wuyong nodded and gave his report. After verifying it a few times, that brat who snatched the martial sage's burial items on Chinran Island is indeed the inheritor of the Azure Dragon martial spirit. When acting Church Master Ding heard this, his expression shifted slightly. He fell deep into thought. Before the Church Master entered closed-door cultivation, he claimed that the inheritor of the Azure Dragon martial spirit would definitely appear. It looked like this was true. The Church Master instructed me to have this person tested. If he fails, then he is trash, and we can kill him. Acting Church Master Ding had measured Wuyong up and thought of an idea. He said, "Wuyong, the effects of the minor fiend essence pill that I gave you are pretty impressive, right? You have advanced to half-step martial monarch in half a month. The Fiend Essence pill was a high-ranked medicinal pill exclusive to the Dark Church. Its effects were excellent for cultivators with demonic beast martial spirits. It could aid them in breaking through bottlenecks in short periods. This pill held a strong attraction to the members of the Dark Church. Under normal circumstance, aside from the 9 elders, the others had to contribute massively before they could receive this as a reward. When Wu Yong returned with a martial sage's corpse, acting Church Master Ding bestowed 3 minor Fiend Essence pills to him. Yu Yong knew that something valuable headed his way again. He suppressed his joy and said, "Many thanks for acting Church Master nurturing me. The effects of the minor Fiend Essence pills are amazing." Acting Church Master Ding smiled. "In that case, I will hand this matter over to you. Find an opportunity and kill this person. After you are successful, I will reward you with 1 major Fiend Essence pill." A major Fiend Essence pill. The scar on Wu Yang's face could not help but twitch. The major Fiend Essence pill was something that even the 9 elders could only get once a year. They were exceedingly rare. If Wu Yong managed to obtain another, he was 70% confident of becoming a martial monarch. "Thank you, Acting Church Master, for granting me this opportunity. I, Wu Yong, will never let you down." Watching Wu Yong leave, Acting Church Master Ding muttered, "This fellow just advanced to half-step martial monarch. He is very suitable to use as a test for the inheritor of the Azure Dragon martial spirit. If he can pass the test, then there will be some value to his existence. If not, even if he dies, the Church Master will not care." If the departing Wu Yong knew that he was merely a pawn to test someone else, he might not be as excited as he was. In a clean room within the Thousand Sword Pavilion's branch, Xiao Chen currently attempted to make a breakthrough to peak consummation of the Firmament Body Tempering Art's 4th layer. It had been 4 days since that gathering. He had not run into any trouble in the Thousand Sword Pavilion's branch. This allowed Xiao Chen to focus on his cultivation fully. Now, he had a new understanding of his own strength. Under the half-step martial monarch realm, Xiao Chen was probably undefeatable. If a half-step martial monarch did not show up, it would be hard to generate a threat against him. Xiao Chen was even confident of being a match for the geniuses of the Great Jin Nation as long as they were not half-step martial monarchs or above. The fight with Xie Zuan instilled Xiao Chen with a lot of anticipation for the peak geniuses of the Great Jin Nation. Xie Zuan only ranked in the top 20, and he was already so strong. Despite his internal injuries, he had withstood Wukui moves heaven a few times. If Xie Zuan were at full power, he might even to completely withstand the Wukui moves heaven. When thinking carefully about Xie Zuan's defeat, it was mostly due to his mentality. From the very start, Xie Zuan underestimated Xiao Chen and only used 70% of his strength. After that, Xiao Chen tyrannically broke his dance of 1,000 flames. If they fought again, it would not be so easy for Xiao Chen to defeat him. Boom. 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 Just at this moment, the remaining 4 acupoints on Xiao Chen's left arm exploded open. The dragon chi in the 12 acupoints rapidly swam around. The dragon chi merged and formed a lifelike and overwhelming azure dragon. Finally, the azure dragon rested on his arm and became an azure dragon tattoo. The strength of Xiao Chen's left arm increased explosively. When he clenched his fist tightly, the blood in his veins surged. Xiao Chen opened his eyes and smiled. "I have finally reached peak consummation of the 4th layer. I wonder which layer Bai Lixi is on now and whether or not I have caught up with him." Bai Lixi was extraordinarily good at tempering the physical body. He had managed to reach the 4th layer in 2 months. That was 2 months ago. Even if Bai Lixi had broken through to the 5th layer, Xiao Chen would not be surprised. Tempering the physical body required more talent than cultivating essence. Xiao Chen stood, pushed open the door, and entered the yard. He started to practice the Dragon Claw Fist. Xiao Chen had already finished practicing the Berserk Dragon. Since there was only 1 day left, He focused on stabilizing his practice of the Berserk Dragon. As for the latter 3 moves, he would wait until he entered the ancient desolate tower to practice them. Fist. Xiao Chen shouted and circulated his vital qi. He activated the Azure Dragon tattoo on his right arm and executed the Berserk Dragon Fist. An Azure Dragon's head rapidly manifested on his fist. When Xiao Chen punched, the air rippled like water and slowly separated in half. Claw. Xiao Chen pulled his fist back, but the dragon's head did not scatter. It appeared dignified as he took half a step forward. His left hand changed into a claw, and he swiped the air. An Azure Dragon claw instantly appeared. With a flash, it left 5 marks in the air as if it had torn the air apart. Roar. Just at this moment, as Xiao Chen prepared to scatter the technique, the dragon's head on his right hand and the dragon claw on his left seemed to link together. The complete image of a dragon appeared behind Xiao Chen and roared. A strong wind blew through the yard, and the grass bent over. Without being able to control it, Xiao Chen emitted a dragon might. Instantly, it felt like dragons had descended to the land, a heavy pressure filling the surroundings. A thought occurred to Xiao Chen. He opened both of his fists and pressed his palms together. The Azure Dragon behind him immediately became Dragon Qi and rushed into the sky. It instantly broke through many layers of clouds and poured into the realm above. The manager of the Thousand Sword Pavilion's branch, who was in a pavilion, suddenly opened his eyes. When he saw the rising Dragon Qi, a strange look flashed in his eyes. When Xiao Chen saw the Dragon Qi disappearing into the sky, doubt flashed in his eyes. Xiao Chen had never heard that the Dragon Claw Fist could summon a complete dragon image. This must be related to his Azure Dragon martial spirit. The 2 Azure Dragon tattoos on his arms started to move slowly. Before the dragon might faded, he practiced another round of the Dragon Claw Fist. However, the situation of the head and claw connecting and forming a complete dragon did not happen again. Doubtful, Xiao Chen pondered the occurrence. The ancient holy beast, the Azure Dragon martial spirit, had too many secrets. He had a feeling that if he could use this move as he pleased, its might would be no weaker than the Wukui move's heaven. It could become another trump card for Xiao Chen. Time passed slowly. Xiao Chen tirelessly practiced the Dragon Claw Fist. Fist winds flashed, picking up the fallen leaves in the yard. Who? A flood dragon made of fallen leaves appeared in the yard. It danced with Xiao Chen, moving as he pleased. When the fallen leaves flood dragon waved its claws, it did not look very impressive as it was only a rough silhouette and produced a vague image. However, it emitted a certain aura that carried a faint pressure as it spread throughout the yard. Dong! 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 Xiao Chen heard footsteps. With a thought, he stopped practicing his martial technique, and the flying flood dragon scattered. The flood dragon turned back into fallen leaves and drifted across the yard, dancing in the cool breeze. Ha ha! Senior sister, I told you already, Xiao Chen is definitely practicing here. Xiao Ru's melodious voice rang out from outside the courtyard. Xia Xian and Xiao Ru slowly walked in. While the fallen leaves floated down, Xia Xian sensed a strong wind current slowly dissipating from the air. She looked at Xiao Chen and could not help but feel that this person was unfathomable. Xiao Chen casually waved his hand, and a strong wind blew. This made the fallen leaves at the 2's feet blow to a side, parting down the middle. You are here. Xiao Chen withdrew his hand and smiled gently at the 2. Xia Xian measured Xiao Chen with her eyes, and she smiled helplessly. It has only been a few days, and your strength has increased significantly. You seem completely different now compared to who you were half a month ago. Xiao Chen nodded and did not deny it. He said seriously, it is still not enough. There were great changes in these times. The era of geniuses is just budding. The path of cultivators is now even harder to walk than before. I can only progress and not remain stagnant. Otherwise, others will surpass me. Xiao Ru pouted and said, you are really boring. You are so serious when you speak, just like a block of wood. TL note. Calling someone a block of wood means they are slow-witted. Xiao Chen shook his head and smiled. He preferred quiet and did not enjoy excitement. This would probably never change. He looked at Xia Xian and said, "Are you looking for me for something?" Xia Xian replied, "The two of us came looking for you because we wanted to explore Desolate City. My martial uncle also suddenly mentioned that he wanted to meet you, but I don't think it would be a major matter." Xiao Chen's expression was one of surprise. The martial uncle Xia Xian had mentioned was Luo Chen. He had met Luo Chen once before. Luo Chen was the manager of this branch. He was responsible for all of the matters concerning the Thousand Sword Pavilion here and was a martial monarch. Xiao Chen had not asked exactly how strong he was. He only knew that he was strong enough to kill the present him easily. Xiao Chen nodded. "Wait for me a while, then. I am quite curious about the Desolate City as well. It would be beneficial to take a look." Now that the firmament body tempering art had reached peak consummation, Xiao Chen could relax. Using the last day to look around Desolate City was not a bad idea. Go and return quickly. Don't keep us waiting too long. Otherwise, we won't take you with us. Xiao Ru smiled as she threatened him playfully. Xiao Chen smiled gently and headed for the main pavilion, which belonged to the manager. When he arrived, he explained what he wanted to the guards, and they brought him directly to the top floor. The pavilion was 100 meters tall and had a total of 15 floors. When they reached the top floor, they could view the scenery around them. When Xia Xian's martial uncle saw Xiao Chen, he quickly stood to welcome him. "Come, sit. I have made some rank 4 spirit tea. Give it a taste." Xia Xian's martial uncle's smile was warm-hearted. The tea leaves of spirit tea were made by fermenting several different types of tea leaves together. They were only available in Desolate City. Spirit teas above rank 3 were worth cities and were sold in limited quantity. They were very hard to buy. By offering the rank 4 spirit tea to Xiao Chen, the other party had shown great sincerity. Xiao Chen sat down and brought the teacup to his mouth. When he saw that steam still drifted from the liquid, he blew on the tea gently. He said, "Senior, you are too courteous. Why are you looking for this junior?" Luo Chen smiled faintly and said, "Young friend is really straightforward. Then, I shall not beat about the bush either. May I ask if this little friend's martial spirit is the ancient holy beast, the Azure Dragon?" When Xiao Chen heard this, he was slightly stunned. He set the teacup back on the table. He looked at Luo Chen and said, "Senior, why do you ask this?" Luo Chen smiled. "Little friend, you don't have to be nervous. I do not have any malicious intentions. It's just that I saw an azure-colored dragon chi rushing into the sky and felt curious.